Hi, how you doing, people? So, where am I here? Right. Right, I've got this. Don't need that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, people can see I've titled this for exactly what it is. And I'm just trying this out. I want to, show some of these opposing philosophies, religions, whatever your preference is to call it. In this pursuit, again, I have to reiterate to people, the only thing that really interests me is the pursuit of understanding. Regardless of what anything is, I just want to find things out and know them for myself. So what I'm doing is I'm opening myself up here because there's a lot of opinions from people and accusations that, you're an advocate of a certain philosophy and you're opposed to another philosophy. But really I'm not. Anybody who understands me knows that my philosophy is direct realism, honesty to yourself, and pursuit, of understanding, things in your direct experience. That to me is the safest method of approach to reality in life. That way, I'm removing any useless information. I only need to focus on things that are relevant to me and that are useful to me through each moment in time of my experience of this reality. So I'm always looking, I spent a long time through my life looking at different literatures and scanning bits and bobs, and to be fair, things like the Bible I never went into in any depth because I was always looking for things that, again, I could relate to, things that were useful to me in my experience, things that I could verify for myself without wandering into fantasy, faith, belief. So, I scanned things quickly for that, and when I find flaws or things that didn't suit me, I disregarded them. I can look at that as a bit of ignorance on my part, that I never get into any depth with anything, probably because I never really had, nothing pulled me in, gave me any will to really understand it any further. As I say, what I want to establish is there any relevance in any of these literatures, and what relevance is there to me? What use is there to me, as an individual living at this time? And, what can I really learn from it? So, as I say, I don't have any hard copies of these. I did at one time. I've got a New Testament there, but, I've been advised to maybe go with the Old Testament, that being the original Bible, the original teachings. So I'm going to go with that right now. And I'm going to go with this Satanism that's, a lot of the terminologies that Satanism is attributed to this particular philosophy from a guy called Anton LaVey. So what I'm doing is I'm going to read from the Old Testament and the Satanic Bible, which is LaVeyan Satanism. There are other factions of Satanism, but I'm not going to get to that right now. I'm going to focus on these two pieces of literature and just go through them. What I'll do is I'll go through, start with the Old Testament. I'll go through some of the opening pages and then I'll flick to the Satanic Bible and I'll do the same. In between, I'm going to stop and reflect on what I'm reading and what I can make out of it, and then I'll jump to the other one. And I've titled this part one because it's going to be ongoing. Obviously, I'm not going to get through all this in one big thing, So, anyway, I've got knob ends trying to distract me in the Google thing, so I don't really need that open right now, so I'm going to just shut that. I don't need it. So again, just to display this, because as I say, for me, the question of the shape of the earth, anything about reality, it's a scientific pursuit. Science belongs to the individual. It's your pursuit, how you explore your reality and you find how things work in your reality. And for me, that's it in regards to that question. It has to be purely a natural science question. There doesn't need to be philosophy, religions involved in it. But part of this whole question comes with a huge sway of people with spiritual beliefs, religious ideologies, different philosophies. So I want to just open up to them and have a wee look at them. This is just a separate thing from focusing on the purely objective science. I just want to get into some of this and see where people are coming up, because, you know, as I say, I'm being accused of advocating, you know, a philosophy like Satanism, at the same time denying the creator or people's gods or whatever. I have to point out that I'm not an advocate of any of these philosophies. I read them for what they were, because, you know, they're in the public arena. I'm hearing propaganda, I'm hearing opinions, and I thought, you know what, you know, I'm going to go and look at these things for myself, just to empower myself, so that I don't have to listen to hearsay. Then I'll know exactly what these people and their writings were actually about. So that was it. You know, if I recommended to anybody, read this or read that, it's purely for that reason, not because I'm an advocate of it. So anyway, I know there's, there are people probably in chat. So hello everybody. What I'm going to do here, once I've read, you know, a few bits from each, and, you know, try to, you know, interpret or look at some of the teachings that have been offered. Once I'm finished that and ending of the part one, I'll open up, and Marshall or one of the mods will post the link to come in and have a discussion. I want the discussion to be based around about this topic, to be honest with you. If I'm focusing on a topic like this and I'm opening up at the end of it, I want people to focus on the topic and have the discussion about what's been, you know, discussed here and now. So once I'm finished, as I say, one of the mods will post it in the chat. You click that, you come into the Hangout, and we can have that discussion. But please focus on this topic. I'm not going to get involved in any other topics unless it's something that's relevant to this. All right. So hello everybody in chat. How are you doing? All right. So let's go on with this. So I've got this, and I hope I've got the right one. I need to come to my chat box here again just so that I can verify this. It's from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I did put in the Old Testament. So this is the Old Testament. Right, yeah. So title page, epistle dedicatory. I'm just going to get straight to the first one, which is Genesis. Now, does anybody have any issues with that? Am I on the right thing? Can I just have, if there's anybody who knows a bit about these religions, just let me know. This is the Old Testament I'm about to look at. I think it is, because I don't think the New Testament has Genesis or the creation story or anything in it. Is this right? Somebody let me know. Is there anybody that's, you know, qualified on this to verify whether I've got the right thing?
Just for confirmation that Genesis is in the Old Testament. It's the first book of the Old Testament, dude.
Right, so I have got the Old Testament then.
Yes.
I see people are putting the Mormons, but you know, I take it they all referred to this original book. This is where it all came from.
Yeah, but each of them has different interpretive translations of it. So it is the first book. Yes, it is.
Right, okay, well, I can go with Genesis just now because I'm probably only going to get through Genesis or a part of Genesis. If there's any issues, you know, I'm sure I can flip to the other one. So, all right, so let's have a wee look here. Okay, so Genesis 1. Right, so Genesis chapter 1. God creates this earth and its heaven and all forms of life in 6 days. Okay. The creative acts of each day are described. God creates man, both male and female, in his own image. Man is given dominion over all things and is commanded to multiply and fill the earth. Okay, so right away, obviously, you know, I've got questions here. You know, God creates this earth and its heaven and all forms of life in 6 days. You know, again, you know, I'm reading this and it's telling me this. I have nothing to go on other than I have to extend so far a bit of faith. I have to believe in this. I have to suspend any doubts and invest a belief that this was the case. You know, it doesn't offer anything in the way of, you know, backing it up. Maybe it will later on, so I'm not going to close myself to that. God creates man, both male and female, okay, in his own image. So what am I saying to, you know, interpret from that? He's creating human beings in his own image. Does that mean psychological terms, physical appearance, or both? You know, again, it seems to be open to interpretation without anything definitive. Man is then given dominion over all things. So basically putting man at the top of the tree and saying, you know, man has dominion over everything and is commanded to multiply and fill the earth. So again, in this wee sentence, I'm seeing subservience, you know, that an authority figure is dictating what's to happen. Now, to me, in my psychology, that's disempowering to me, because again, I'm at the whim of some, you know, higher entity who's deciding and dictating what should and shouldn't be done. So right away from the first paragraph, that's what I get. And in years going by, I would read this first thing and that's what I would see. To me, I would just see it's disempowering to me. It's taking, you know, responsibility and power away from me. So anyway, 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So I'm looking at this and I would interpret that as being heaven being the sky and earth obviously being, you know, the earth that we stand upon. So again, I just have to put faith that that's the case without anything to verify it, other than I see this and knew this story's been attached to it. 2. And the earth was without form. So what was the earth then if it had no form? What are we talking about here? What was it if it had no form? And void and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So what I'm trying to get from this, you know, I'm just trying to look at it. You just need to bear with me, people, because I'm going to have to try and, you know, find exactly what it's trying to tell me. I'll try and interpret what I'm seeing here. So, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So when somebody says the deep, you know, instantly I think of an ocean, I think of water. So darkness was upon the face of the deep. So that would suggest there was a darkness on the surface of the water. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what this word deep is supposed to mean here. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. I don't know what we mean by spirit. Is that the essence of God? Is that, you know, are we talking about a physical entity with a spirit, you know, denoting dualism of some kind? And again, moved upon the face of the waters, which again would suggest the surface. So what am I getting? Am I getting, you know, an entity in physical form who is making a creation within an already materialistic space or area? I don't know. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Okay, so God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So, I mean, I don't know, did light already exist? They already knew what light was. Light had to be invented or created or brought from somewhere. 4, and God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. I'm really struggling already here to, you know, understand what's going on. I'm trying to grasp at some sort of route that I can, you know, expand from. But already I'm into confusion, lack of understanding, interpretation. What's it actually talking about here? I could play with it. I could try and, you know, and God saw the light, that it was good. So did he knew what light was? He never knew what light was. He's seen it and he thought, that's good, I like it. Don't know. And God divided the light from the darkness. So darkness and light were separate. They existed somewhere else, or there just was eternal darkness. There was eternal light. I mean, I don't know. Let me just get through this because, you know, I'm struggling. Maybe once I've some engagement with people that they can shed some light on their interpretations of this. But I'm not off to a very good start. I'm already struggling here. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. Okay. And the evening and the morning were the first day. What does that mean? The first day had a morning and an evening. So when did it start? According to this, it was evening first and then the morning. So evening was first and then morning. So the sun must have been created as it was setting. I don't know, in one particular area. It's number 6. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Okay, so this then suggests that what I was saying earlier is you know, what it's describing, that there is a vast body of water, or, you know, everything was water. And then again, I mean, this even backs up what I was saying before. You were talking about a medium here of water. So if there's going to be a creation of air, or, you know, a pressurized gaseous environment, God created a firmament in the midst of the waters and let it divide the waters from the waters. Okay, so what, you know, what I'm getting for this is 2 separate waters. You know, if you were just, you know, creating a divide in a body of water, that would be one divide, unless you had water still running in. So, you know, again, we're talking about access points, entry, exit points, inlet and outlet valves of this, you know, firmament, this creation in amongst a body of water. Is that what it's suggesting? I don't really know. So it's talking about the firmament. Again, we hear this being brandied about in the whole topic of level earth, flat earth, what the earth's shape is, and people claiming there is a firmament, some solid structure in the sky. Again, going from science, going from understanding of reality, if people were to suggest to me we are in a large body of water, or we're in a vacuum or some other medium, then of course, you know, my pursuit of understanding of reality tells me beyond any shadow of a doubt I must have, you know, a separation, you know, within that medium in order to create or have what we have right now, which is an air pressure. So, and God made the firmament. Okay, so, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. So is this him laying out a plan, or this being an entity laying out a plan? Then we jump to 7, and God made the firmament. So we're talking about a construct here, you know, a being constructing something with physical matter, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. So, you know, you take a bowl of some sort, you take it at the bottom of a body of water and you push it down, you know, it's still filled with water. So then you would have to separate that, you know, you would have to inject, you know, air so that it would force out the liquid and the air would remain within your enclosure. But then again, you're still having an outlet. There has to be an outlet for that to happen. I don't know. I'm just, you know, taking this from physical reality and how we proceed, you know, to create, how I would create these things. If you're giving me a body of water, how would I create, you know, an earth-like environment with a gaseous air pressure? Is that what it's describing here? I don't know. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So again, we're talking about the sky that's suggesting that it's some sort of structure. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Again, maybe it's just me, maybe people can clarify this. So we had that before. The evening and the morning were the first day. And again, attached to this, and God called the firmament heaven. and the evening and the morning were the second day. So is this, referencing that on the second day of this creation, that the firmament was created in the second day? I don't know. I'm a bit baffled by that, but number 9. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place. So we're talking about just one ocean then. So, what we have is these separate named and titled oceans, but really when you look at it, there's no dividing line. It is just one huge ocean. Is that what it's referencing? And let the dry land appear, and it was so. Okay. So we had a concept of dry land. Where did that come from? 1 minute we've got this, the deep, the body of water. We're creating firmaments, and then all of a sudden we've got dry land with no description of where that came from. Right. And it was so, just like that. I suppose I've got to suspend my disbelief, and, try and lend myself to imagination that, some supernatural being has that ability. Number 10, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. So there was only one water, and they were referencing together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that it was good. I don't get, how that could be. Good in what sense? We're just talking about, metaphysical entities, or an entity just playing like a child with new stuff. Oh, that's good, I like that. I don't know. He saw that it was good for whatever reasons. It tickled his fancy, I don't know. And God said, I know I'm going to, make wee jokes and laugh, but I have to, because it's just who I am, right? It's not because I'm deliberately trying to slate this. I'm reading it literally for what it says and giving my honest, response to it. So, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed in itself upon the earth. And it was so. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass. From where? No description of seeds, how you made these seeds. Did you scatter them? Are we talking about just conjuring? This God just envisions it and says, bring it forth, and fucking grass grows. The herb yielding seed. Okay, so we're obviously talking about plants' growth that reproduce, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind. So for me, I'm taking from that, okay, an apple tree produces apples. His seeds, they drop, they take root, they grow. Whose seed is in itself. Okay, so that's saying, if some fruit tree has the seed, the information within itself to keep reproducing upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass. So now we've got a switch here of language. Was it God that put the grass on the earth, or he commanded the earth's now an entity, and the earth brought forth grass, so the earth's making decisions? Don't know. And herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Okay. Good how, again? Just because it worked, we're talking about some, chemist, alchemist, making stuff, and oh, look, it's good. Did he taste the fruit? That's gallus, I like it. It's fruity, I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm taking it. This is professed to be the word of God, you know, divine, you know, influence. I take it this is claimed. So again, you know, as I've always said, I would have questions here. I wouldn't just be taking this, trying to interpret it. I don't like it, you know, when things are said to be, you know, from this authority, but yet subject to interpretation and ambiguous in its writings. I mean, I like to think just know what I'm reading and I can verify it. I mean, and the evening and the morning were the third day. Okay, so we're into the third day then. 14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So I've heard this, you know, religious flat earthers will use this as influence, because obviously there's factions who are trying to convince other, you know, religious people that this is what it's talking about, and this is proof. If people follow this religion, this is proof of their God telling them how he created the earth. So, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven. So we're talking then about this fixed construct above and putting in, you know, sockets and lights or whatever. You know, I'm only going by our advancements. There may be some more advanced form of technology, obviously. You know, but still no details about how that came to be and what these lights are made of, who fitted them, none of that. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Well, we know these things, you know, things are in certain positions depending on the seasons and blah, blah, blah. So 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. So these are like dimmer lights, so that when the sun's in some other area, we have like a dimmer light. I mean, what we're talking about here, so that we can see in the dark. This is hard. And God made 16, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day. Suppose we're talking about the sun here, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So the stars, are these the lights that we're referencing here? Don't know. So obviously, you know, I would take from that, they're talking about the sun and the moon. And it's referencing that the moon's a lesser light, which again here is suggesting that the moon is its own source of light. You know, again, in this, it's no referencing that it's reflecting it. 17, and God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. So this is then suggesting that whatever the sun and the moon and these things are fixed within some other structure. So they've been set in the firmament. So this, what they're referencing is this sky, and it's some sort of structure, and these things are set within them. Again, there's merit to that, you know. For me, if we're looking at reality as a construct, then for me there's a mechanical process to that, because reality shows me mechanical processing, and that things are mechanical in their nature. You know, bio mechanical. You know, they still are mechanical. So of course I would still look at reality in that sense, and that would make sense to me. That reality as a construct is mechanical. And it has components and solid structure to it. So, upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. Again, you know, we've got somebody that's pleased with our work here. For whatever reasons, I don't know what this interpretation is as of good. 19, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. 20. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life. Okay, so what I'm taking from this is that the moving creature that hath life, so the waters then produced the first forms of life. Now again, I can see similarities here with the evolutionary story. The evolutionary story starts from that, obviously, and progresses. So, you know, from the water came life. And fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. So, did the water make the birds as well? I don't know. With these fish with wings? 21. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly. So again, it's referencing this as that the waters is an entity on its own, and that it's, you know, bringing things forth. Is this under the command of God? So God's commanding, the water does this, and the water hears God's command, and it has the ability. I don't know. Brought forth abundantly after their kind. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about things being brought from already established life? Is this what we're looking at here? Which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind. So these life forms were brought forth by the waters from somewhere else. I don't know. And every winged fowl after his kind. Okay, again, we're talking about bringing life from somewhere else to this area. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed, 22, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And this is where I have questions again. For what purpose exactly? I mean, just for the sake of it? Or is this talking in some form or another about bringing life from other places to this specific area and multiplying in it, you know, populating it for whatever purpose or reason? I don't know. 23, and the evening and the morning were the fifth day. 24, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle and creeping thing and beast of the earth after his kind, and it was so. Again, you know, I'm not understanding what this thing about bring the creature after his kind. Is this again, are we talking about genetic copying? Are we talking about, I don't know, I really don't know what's going on here. 25, and God made the beast of the earth after his kind. Whose kind? And cattle after their kind. Okay. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about separate creations? Are we talking about separate entities that create different things? And they're being brought forth, you know, it's like me bringing a Vauxhall, an Astra or a Nova from Vauxhall, and that's brought forth after its kind, which is Vauxhall. But then we've got another thing, which is an Escort, which is from Ford. So I've brought an Escort after its kind, which is Ford. I mean, the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cattle after their kind. So it seems to me we're talking about two different, you know, creators here or something. And everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. So we've got beasts, you know, we're talking about predators here that are brought forth after their kind, which is coming from a predatory beast type entity. And then we've got cattle, which are herbivores, passive, you know, non-predatory after their kind. And then all the creepy stuff after its kind. So we're now referencing three different figureheads here, like three different branches of production. And God saw that it was good again. So what are we talking about here? Is this starting to look like this is some entity that's grabbing things from other places? And I don't know. This is just what it's starting to look like to me. "26. And God said, let us make man in our image." Now, I remember this from before. I remember this from years ago, and this was always, and I never followed it up to see the arguments between people. But, when I read this literally, what's this saying to me? Again, as I've just referenced before, and we're talking about different groups here, and this word God, and the people denoting that a God is a singular thing, because that's not what I'm seeing here. So let us make man in our image. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about some, as I say, some sort of infiltrators, some, groups or different entities that are, looking to create their own thing. Let us make man in our image. I mean, who's our? As far as I was aware, there only was one God according to this. So I don't know what this is meaning by our image, unless they're going to admit that their God is a multiple, split personality. Or maybe it's all the factions of God, and he's talking to himself. After our likeness. So it depends what this God actually is that's saying, let's take these things that we call man and let's turn them into what we are. Let's make them what our nature is, our likeness. Or let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So again, what I'm getting from this, my interpretation is that things are being brought from different places, and then they're deciding we're going to make this thing man that may come from somewhere else as well. We're going to make him like us, but in this wee area that we have cordoned off from the great deep, this area we have, we're going to make him the top of the chain and we'll give him dominion. So we're starting to look at some sort of experiment here. "27. So God created man in his own image." I thought he was saying our. So what is this God then? Because 1 minute it's saying our, and then it's saying man in his own image, as his means singular, one. That's what I take from that. It's my understanding of the word his. God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. So then I would have to say that this God is both male and female because it's in his image. So what we're looking at? We're looking at an entity that has both male and female aspects, can reproduce itself. I don't know. This is what it seems to be saying here. And God blessed them. What does that mean? Blessed them with what? Blessed them with what exactly? "And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply." So we're getting dictated to, "and replenish the earth." Replenish. Replenish means to me that there was something there that has now no there, and that you're re-establishing it. Replenish it. "And subdue it." Right, so really again here, we're talking about domination, infiltration, take over something, subdue it. Are we talking about something that's arrived here and it sees what it is and it's got a will to want to overtake it? So, we'll make entities that look like that, and then I fucking don't know. I'm starting to really lose exactly what this is going on about here. to have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So basically saying, you know, dominate the whole fucking lot. It's there for you to use. 29. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in which there is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Now again, this must be interpretations. So what I'm taking from that is that, you know, in which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed, to you it shall be for meat. So what does this word meat mean in regards to this teaching? You know, that's saying to me, it's telling the beings to eat from the trees, to be vegetarians. 30. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth. Wait a minute, it's left out cattle. Because remember, it made a distinction between the beasts and the cattle. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. So, I'm not seeing anything here about predation, but yet I'm seeing references to predation, so there seems to be like two stories intertwining here that I can't quite make sense of. Because it's saying it clearly that I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. So it's referencing everything that's alive here on the earth. That's your food. So where does the predator come into it? And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. So it's very good. Very good. It's very satisfied with it. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. Right. So that's page 1 of Genesis. There I go, just hit that, chapter 2. Right, so as I say, I think the best thing for me to do now is just to kind of break it up, you know, and keep going backwards and forwards. I'll jump now the Satanic Bible, and I'll read, you know, the first part of that. It's obviously going to be in a different format, so I'm just going to need to see where the cut-off point is. I think so. Where a cut-off point is, and then I'll come back to Genesis and into chapter 2 again. All right, so I'm just going to take a wee couple of minutes break here just to roll a smoke before I get back into it, and then we'll go, as I say, to the Satanic Bible, and we'll start that off and see what we can interpret from that and what it's actually saying, you know. And again, just to you know, get back to this, I'm looking at them because you see a lot of these things being put up there as oppositions to each other, and that you're either one or the other. You know, and for me, I'm no either or. I'm just trying to understand what these things are, why people believe and invest in them, you know, why they affiliate themselves with certain teachings and profess that you're either, you know, a God-fearing Christian or whatever you're, you know, or you're a Satanist and opposed to all that stuff. I'm not opposed or for either or. I can only take what's relevant for myself, what makes sense to me, and how it applies to my everyday reality. That's pretty much it. So, as I say, this is probably going to be an ongoing series. You know, it's far too vast just to get through quickly. You know?
Dylan, my man.
Oh, Gav, how you doing?
All right. Just wanted to say I think you're doing a great job putting yourself out there, showing, you know, exactly that, reading from it, trying to make sense of it, you know, trying to understand what they're saying. You know, it leaves me with much confusion, I must say, and my head is already hurting.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's good to just, you know, wade through this and show exactly these differences and our commonalities between these two different books. So good on you for just being honest and direct and doing it, my man.
So I can do, mate. You know, it's so I can do. As I say, you're being met with these questions and accusations, so at the end of the day, I'm always just going to meet it head on and read it for what it is, give my honest interpretation and why I reject or accept certain things depending on its relevance to me as an individual, you know. But as I say already, you know, reading that thing, I'm starting to get, you know, ideas of, you know, we're talking about different entities, things coming from different places. I mean, it's really difficult reading. It's difficult to just get a grasp on immediately. Don't know if it's just the wording and what these things are actually meaning, but who the fuck knows?
I mean, I think it already contains in the first page that you've read a lot of metaphysical concepts, right, which you can't directly relate to natural observations or any lived experience. So that's what makes it difficult, right? There seems to be a leap of faith required in the metaphysical arguments that they bring right from the beginning. So I'm having my difficulties. It's not the first time I've looked at it, and go for it, my man.
Cheers, man.
I'm to show my support for your endeavours here.
Well, as I say, mate, you're more than welcome. Once I get through a couple of aspects of each one, I'm going to open up and invite discussion about it. So you're more than welcome to join in with it. So
I've got a couple of things I'd like to show as well. So go for it.
I'll get through some of this then. All right. So So we'll move on to the Satanic Bible by Anton Zander LaVey. So again, this is usually the accusations that come. This is the literature that I learned that, you know, I say to people, you're better just reading these things for yourself. Then you're empowered to know rather than listening to hearsay. So there's some introductory aspects. I don't really know if I should just read that. I'll just get straight to it. Fuck it, I'll just read this one quickly. As I say, they're in different formats. So I'm just going to have to read through and do the best I can, and I'll balance it between each. So Anton Zander LaVey, called the Black Pope by many of his followers. So right away, you know, there's something there that I totally disagree with. Anybody who's advocating a hierarchy and philosophies of following and idolising, I have a real issue with it. So right from the off here, I've got a real problem with that, and why. I mean, I don't even know enough to know if he's addressed these types of psychology and playing it down. Anton LaVey began the road to high priesthood of the Church of Satan when he was only 16 years old and an organ player in a carnival. So I've got a quoted quote here from LaVey. On Saturday night, I would see men lusting after half-naked girls dancing at the carnival, and on Sunday mornings when I was playing the organ for tent show evangelists at the other end of the carnival lot, I would see these same men sitting in the pews with their wives and children, asking God to forgive them and purge them of carnal desires, and the next Saturday night they'd be back at the carnival or some other place of indulgence. So again, already, you know, we're hearing him talking about the confusion amongst man who's obviously been influenced by this religious narrative, but yet they have these desires that they're fulfilling, but yet they're still influenced by this religious imprint because they're still going back to it, seeking forgiveness and asked to be purged of their carnal desires at the same time as pursuing them. So again, for me, it's creating a split in the psyche of a man, you know, going with this religious narrative and what they're holding true to themselves and what they're pursuing, and there's a conflict there, and obviously a contradiction in their behaviour, as he's pointing out, because he sees them, you know, behaving, lusting after their carnal desires, and at the same time being hypocritical, showing up at church on a Sunday asking for forgiveness with their wives and kids. Now, even bringing that forward to modern day, it still goes on. You have people entering into, you know, marriages and ideas of relationships, but yet they don't fulfill and follow it through to the end. They go behind backs, they pursue other avenues. These are aspects I'm going to get into at a later date as well in regards to our ideas of relations, what we are true in our nature, you know, and why we have these conflicts, which is obviously coming from these influences, these external influences, these teachings from religious institutions and literature from different philosophies. So I knew then that the Christian church thrives on hypocrisy, and that man's carnal nature will out. So he has taken the stance that, you know, man's carnal nature is what's true, and that they're, you know, wandering away from that and trying to replace it with some, you know, false teaching that's detrimental with their nature. That's what I get for that. From that time early in his life, his path was clear. Finally, on the last night of April 1966, Walpurgisnacht, the most important festival of the believers in witchcraft, LaVey shaved his head in the tradition of ancient executioners and announced the formation of the Church of Satan. He had seen the need for a church that would recapture man's body and his carnal desires as objects of celebration. Since worship of fleshy things produces pleasure, he said, there would then be a temple of glorious indulgence. So that's just a wee precursor. So now I need to look through to get this index. I think there's some introduction, you know, from other people. I'm not going to bother with these introductions because it looks like opinions or slants from other people. I'm just going to get straight to the actual book and what it's got to say. I'm maybe, you know, worth going back and reading some of these preface. So I think I should read that. It looks important. It's signed by the author of the book. This book was written because, with very few exceptions, every tract and paper, every secret grimoire, all the great works on the subject of magic are nothing more than sanctimonious fraud, guilt-ridden ramblings and esoteric gibberish by chroniclers of magical lore, unable or unwilling to present an objective view of the subject. Okay, so he's obviously referencing, you know, fantasy-based magic and ideas here. Writer after writer, in efforts to state the principles of white and black magic, has succeeded instead in clouding the entire issue so badly that the would-be student of sorcery winds up stupidly punishing a planchette over a Ouija board, standing inside a pentagram waiting for a demon to present itself, limply tossing a I Ching yarrow stalks like so many steel pretzels, shoveling pasteboards to foretell a future which has lost any meaning, attending seminars guaranteed to flatten his ego. So he seems to be, you know, playing down this idea of morons who think they can summon things. You know, this is just what I'm getting here for this wee introduction. This is not really that important to me. I'm just going to read the rest of it anyway. While doing the same to his wallet and in general making a blithering fool of himself in the eyes of those who know. The true magus knows that occult bookshelves abound with the brittle relics of frightened minds and sterile bodies, metaphysical journals of self-deceit and constipated rule books of Eastern mysticism. Far too long has the subject of satanic magic and philosophy been written down by wild-eyed journalists of the right path. The old literature is the byproduct of brains festering with fear and defeat. So he's referencing these teachings as, you know, being disempowering. That's just what I'm gauging for that. Written unknowingly for the assistance of those who really rule the earth. So basically suggesting there is a real branch that rules the earth, and a lot of these teachings are just there to fill you full of fucking nonsense, false teachings that are not really empowering you or taking you anywhere. And two, from their hellish thrones, laugh with noisome mirth. So there is some language in here that I don't fully understand either. I'm going to have to, you know, look at some of the interpretations of that, written at a time when language was different. The flames of hell burn brighter for the kindling supplied by these volumes of hoary misinformation and false prophecy. Herein you will find truth and fantasy. Each is necessary for the other to exist, but each must be recognized for what it is. So again, you know, he's talking here about factual-based reality and obviously fantasy, and having the ability to separate the two, which to me is rational and responsible for anybody to have that approach. What you see may not always please you, but you will see. Here is satanic thought from a truly satanic point of view. Right, so we've still got prologue. The gods of the right-hand path have bickered and quarrelled for the entire age of Earth. Each of these deities and their respective priests and ministers have attempted to find wisdom in their own lies. The ice age of religious thought can last but a limited time in this great scheme of human existence. The gods of wisdom defiled have had their saga, and their millennium hath become as reality, each with his own divine path to paradise. So again, for me, it looks like it's a guy who's fed up with the hypocritical, you know, from his point of view, hypocritical sanctimonious teachings of the religious narratives gone by, and he's looking for a more direct, you know, realistic approach to what it is to be a human, and then pursuing your own path to paradise, whatever your paradise may be. That's down to the subjective, you know, being. Hath accused the other of heresies and spiritual indiscretions. The ring of the Nibelungen doth carry an everlasting curse, but only because those who seek it think in terms of good and evil, themselves being at all times good. The gods of the past have become as their own devils in order to live. Feebly, their ministers play the devil's game to fill their tabernacles and pay the mortgages on their temples. So he's obviously referencing, you know, these creations, these religious teachings being created, and then, you know, just becoming a business, a way to line the pockets and have some sort of power control. Alas, too long have they studied righteousness, and poor and incompetent devils they make. So they all join hands in brotherly unity, and in their desperation go to Valhalla for their last great ecumenical council. Draweth near in the gloom the twilight of the gods. The ravens of night have flown forth to summon Loki, who hath set Valhalla aflame with the searing trident of the Inferno. The twilight is done. A glow of new light is born out of the night, and Lucifer is risen once more to proclaim, this is this age of Satan. Satan rules the earth. The gods of the unjust are dead. This is the morning of magic and undefiled wisdom. The flesh prevaileth, and a great church shall be builded. Consecrated in its name, no longer shall man's salvation be dependent on his self-denial, and it will be known that the word of the flesh and the living shall be the greatest preparation for any and all eternal delights. So it seems like a removal of appealing to metaphysical aspects, and these divine, supposed divine teachings of good and evil and which path you should follow in order to be a righteous human being. He sees that as, you know, obviously flawed, unrealistic, based on his observations of reality and what he was seeing amongst his fellow man, because their behaviours just didn't match what they were professing to follow. So anyway, so I'll get to this. Okay, what I'll do is I will read this first part, which is the 9 satanic statements, and then I'll stop it there and I'll get back to the Genesis. Okay, so this is the 9 satanic statements. Number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. So what he's basically, you can interpret from that is to follow your gut instinct, follow and pursue what you hold true to you, what you desire, you know, just what you're following from each moment in time and what you want to pursue, rather than, you know, second guessing yourself based on, you know, some doctrine or teaching which is telling you to avoid certain aspects of being a human being, and you have to, you know, go for abstinence. So he's basically stating here, don't do that, just pursue whatever it is you desire and whatever it is you want to pursue. Fulfill those, see what it means to you, move on. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. So again, you know, looking at that, to me that means, you know, representing vital existence, what is required to be a human being, what does it mean to be a human being in this actual reality, what do we experience of living in the now, rather, as I say, looking at some metaphysical aspect, future, past, present, whatever it is, them being spiritual pipe dreams, because there's no way for you to verify or falsify any of these teachings because they don't exist within your direct reality. So again, I can relate to that because that's where I'm at, you know, in my life, where, you know, I don't see the benefit of any, you know, lending my consciousness to fantasy and things that I can never experience or know as I'm alive as a human being. And that's what I have to deal with. I'm alive now. This is what I am. This is the tools I have. This is where my consciousness is. This is what I can experience. Fantasy, imagination, I can't experience that. So, 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. So again, we're talking about, you know, again, going internally, listening to yourself, being true to yourself, you know, undefiled wisdom, that being what you can know and experience for yourself, and you know, go through your life processes through that procedure, rather than hypocritical self-deceit, which is filling your head full of delusions and, you know, trying to find some bias and grasp at things in order to prop up a fantasy. That's what I take for that. So that's like me, I don't want to deceive myself. I'm always asking, am I deceiving myself? Do I have an emotional bias, clinging to some preference that I'm editing and you know, leaving things out because I want to follow and pursue that? You always have to ask yourself these questions. 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. So again, I can totally relate to that, and I'm sure everybody else can. You know, you don't go about offering your kindness, offering your love, your respect, your attention to those that don't, it's not reciprocated. You're not getting it in return. You will meet people who abuse, you know, your extension of those attributes, and, you know, just shit over the top of it. So I get, you know, that's, for me, that's true, that's self-evident. I don't go just lending myself and opening myself up to any old Tom, Dick and Harry, because we're not in an ideal situation where it's all going to be reciprocated. We're dealing with, you know, complex beings that are at various different levels of consciousness with different attributes and, you know, behaviours to them. So again, for me, common sense, you know, these are just facts that make sense to me. So what I have to point out here is, obviously, the difference so far is that from, you know, the Old Testament, we've got a description of creation, whereas here we don't have any of that. It's not even going into creation or how we got here or any of that stuff. I think this is just coming from a psychological point of view, looking at behaviours and analysing them, and then, you know, that's pretty much it. So 5, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. So here, you know, some of these things I think can be, you know, could be an influence to an imbalanced mind. You know, it depends here what we mean by vengeance and what level of vengeance. And again, this would come back to, you know, having maturity of mind, you know, rational, logical thinking, rather than, you know, if we're talking about vengeance coming from pure emotional impulse and imbalance, then, you know, that can be a wee bit ambiguous there. You know, I would have to look at that and say, well, you know, that's a bit irresponsible, because, you know, again, we're talking about an ideal scenario here of human beings being logical, rational, and balanced in their emotions and their mental processes, where, you know, somebody scratching your motor and you then going and seeking vengeance by killing them. To me, there's a serious imbalance there. You know, I would have to weigh up what my vengeance would actually be, if I would even seek to look at vengeance. You know, if it's a deliberate act and it's being, you know, perpetuated, then I would maybe need to look at an intervention of vengeance. If, you know, a scenario being, you know, me understanding a frame of mind somebody's in, understanding their behaviours, and that it's just a passing behaviour and that it's a one-off, where's my need to seek vengeance? You know, again, it's not really getting into any depth. So people would have to be careful of these types of things. And I think it's irresponsible because it can have an influence on an impressionable mind to be interpreted as, vengeance for, your feelings being hurt, or, oh, my feelings are hurt, therefore I'm going to get into a high school and fucking shoot everybody with an AK-47. That's, for me, that's an unbalanced idea of vengeance. So, 6, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. So again here, we're talking about that responsibility of the responsible. So again, we're talking about, people being balanced, rational, logical, and taking responsibility and extending that to those that display those same attributes. So we're talking about reciprocity without crossing over those boundaries of, like what it's saying here, instead of concern for psychic vampires. So that, for me, I interpret that as these types of people who are manipulative in their nature, who, play games amongst each other, who seek attention through needy means and processes, who are, will take and never reciprocate. I'm sure people have met people like that in your life. So I think for me, that's what it's talking about. Again, I don't see any issue there with that. I think it's common sense, self-evident. You don't go about extending your compassion or your whatever to those that are not reciprocating it, or else you're just going to get burned by that, 7, Satan represents man as just another animal. Sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. So again, I totally agree with number 7 here. I think it's a very good observation. And that, again, has been taught to us, that we are divine and somehow above these other animals. But yet again, I've referenced it before, animals seem to be more in touch with themselves these days than humans are, and again, spot on, man has become the most vicious animal of them all, because most animals just mind their own business and go about it, whereas human beings, start getting in each other's noses. They start trying to control and dominate each other. They herd things up. They abuse them. We abuse each other. And he's quite right in his observations. 100% concur and agree with number 7. 8, Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. So saying here, I think he's referencing, the religious teachings of what sin is. So I would have to say then he's talking about the 10 Commandments. I don't know. But again, I think it's very true, because how would any human ever learn about themselves and their fellow man or reality if they never just pursued and followed what was in them? There has to be a time of reflection, understanding, going through a process of experience in order for you to reflect and understand. But again, I would refer back to this responsibility of the responsible. So if you're pursuing, these so-called sins, then you would have to be pursuing that with those who are consenting to it, who are aligned with what you want to pursue, so that you can interact at that level with them. Again, it's open to, people just pursuing whatever they want, regardless if they're imposing on somebody else. But again, even if people do impose on somebody else, there's lessons to be learned for them, especially if somebody stands up against them, then they can self-reflect. I mean, again, you refer back to the animal kingdom. I've spoke about this in regards to dogs, for instance. Dogs, when they're born and say a litter, they learn certain aspects. Again, an animal just pursues whatever it wants from each moment in time, and it learns the boundaries. The other sentient animals that it's with teach it that. So they bite each other. They learn the boundary of how hard to bite. They learn what behaviours they can get away with, how far they can take them. and the reflection comes from the other animals that it's with, letting it know, you're biting me too hard, I'm not letting you away with that, that's not acceptable. So, 9, Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years. So I already know, because I've read more of this, that these people, like the Levian Satanism, don't believe in metaphysical Satans. They're just using it as a figure, and he's using it as a representation of an opposer against these religious teachings, because it's them that profess there's a metaphysical God and there's a metaphysical Satan. So he's saying that they require the Satan because then they've got a, you know, two that they can play people off against. You know, and again, I've referenced this before. People are either trying to align themselves with some invisible good guy at the same time as blaming everything on an invisible bad guy. You know, again, it removes responsibility from the individual, and I don't agree with it. So, anyway, that's the first part of that. So, how are we getting on, people? Are you still with me? Anyway, I'm going to go on with it. So back to Genesis. Now we're chapter 2. So already for me, just as a reader, it's more palatable, it's easier for me to interpret and understand from, you know, the philosophy from Anton LaVey than it is trying to read through the first part of this Bible, you know, the book of Genesis here. No. Genesis chapter 2. The creation is completed. God rests on the 7th day. He's going for a wee kip, is he? Putting his feet up. The prior spirit creation is explained. Adam and Eve are placed in the Garden of Eden. They are forbidden to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Adam names every living creature. Adam and Eve are married by the Lord. Okay, so let's just have a wee look at this. God rests on the 7th day. The prior spirit creation is explained. So the spirits were already created prior to the creation of this thing that we call Earth. And then Adam and Eve are placed in the Garden of Eden. So where is this Garden of Eden? They are forbidden to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So what is this saying here? That he doesn't want them ever to question themselves, to ever question their existence, to ever have any knowledge or start to contemplate or formulate any of these things. Were they just supposed to be automatons who carried out a pre-programmed existence? And then Adam names every living creature. So where did Adam get his language? Who taught it to him? How did that come about? Again, missing parts here. We're just being told this, and it's kind of empty for me. 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. A host, all the host of them. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. A host to me is a host like I am the host. You know, you're my guest. Really difficult. 2. And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made. So it's repeating that here. What's going on? And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he had made. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Right, okay. 3. And God blessed the seventh day. Blessed it with what? What does that mean? Blessed it. And sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. I don't know, I'll just keep moving on. It's something that's really difficult. 4. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. What the fuck, man? These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, and the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. That just can't make any fucking sense out of that at all. Really can't. Anyway, I'll continue. As I say, I'll open up and maybe other people can pipe in. 5. And every plant of the field before it, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. Before what? For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Okay. So these things were there, but they couldn't come to fruition until there was rain and man to till the ground. But yet, at the beginning it said that they came forth because he commanded them. Again, are we talking about bringing these things from other areas, and they were put there, but they wouldn't take seed until water was put on them, and these beings were brought to till the ground, because is that what they knew from previous or other areas, that that's the process that had to be done in order to make it grow and to generate? 6. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. How did that happen? How did that happen? Was it a condensation build-up because he had created this light called the sun that was causing heat, that was causing condensation to rise up and then fall again? Seven. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. Well, I thought. See, why does it not get to that before? You know, it jumped up there, it was saying Adam and Eve are put somewhere. And now, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. So he'd created soul before that, or spirit. Oh, I don't know. 8. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Right? So, again, are we talking about a designated area? Is this what we call Earth? That this is a designated area away from another area? And is this another man that he's talking about, that he's now putting in Eden? But he's already put Adam and Eve in Eden? 9. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So why put it there? Is it metaphors for something else? So he's put 2 trees there, but he's telling them he doesn't want them to access this other tree. Well, why put it there in the fucking first place? I mean, And the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Right. 10. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden. Right, so we're definitely talking about two distinct areas here. Right. So we're talking about a created place called Eden and water running out there to water the garden, which is some other area. And from thence it was parted and became into 4 heads. Okay, so is this reference then that I've seen from Mount Meru and the 4 rivers that are coming for it? Is this what this tree in the centre is that people reference and are talking about? But again, here I'm getting mixed messages of separate areas and talk of us and them and making them in our image, and you know, beasts from that kind and cattle from their kind and creepy crawlies from another kind. And I'm starting to interpret this, and I can interpret this as some being, you know, messing with stuff, taking things from places, creating its own wee area and sticking them in it. "11. The name of the first is Pison." What? "That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold." The name of the first is Pison. The name of the first what? We're talking about the 4 heads here. Is this what we're talking about? So the name of the first is Pison. That is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. So again, referencing other areas and them having names. "12. And the gold of that land is good." Good for what? Good for what exactly? "There is bdellium and the onyx stone." Okay. So different areas having different attributes to them. Different resources, maybe. I don't know. 13. And the name of the second river is Gihon, the same as it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. Okay. So we're talking about different areas here. And the name of the third river is Hiddekel, that is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrates. Okay. So apparently all these rivers are leading to one place. 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. But I thought Adam and Eve were already there. So again, I'm looking at this and going, right, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about taking life and entities and moving them about and giving them different tasks? Are we talking about some sort of experiment here? I don't fucking know. 16. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. Okay. But then 17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Okay. So what are we talking about here then? Because are we talking about self-reflection? Are we talking about self-awareness here? Of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. Sorry, 2 seconds, people. Hi, mate. Hello. Right. But if you know is good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it. So basically saying, you know, there is no good and evil. If you go to this, you know, psychology of good and evil, you're going to perish. You're going to cause yourself problems. Is that what it means? Or you will just die? Does that mean you're eternal as long as you don't self-reflect, you don't contemplate, you don't seek knowledge, you just walk about as a fucking an automaton drone? Is that what we're looking for? Is that what this is about? Trying to formulate and create a man that's just an automaton, that will no question, that will just, you know, follow orders and mine the fucking fields and go about like a machine? I don't fucking know. Again, we may have to have the discussions about this stuff. 18, and the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him and help meet for him. I thought you already created Adam and Eve, though. Am I missing something here? It is not good that man should be alone. Why? Why no? 19. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field. I thought he already, you know, commanded them and the waters brought them forth. And out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. Where did Adam learn how to speak? Where did Adam get his language? And whatsoever, I mean, if he didn't have a language, he would have just been calling them. How the fuck's anybody going to understand what the fuck that is? If you don't have a language that's gave to you, you're going to be running about grunting. You know, a tiger's just going to be called a and so's a cow probably. So everything's just a grunty noise. Where the fuck is the language coming from? Every beast of the field full of the air, and brought them unto Adam, she would call a creature. Right. Adam called every living creature that was the name thereof. Okay, so I'll just leave that just now, because I don't know where Adam get his language. And was it Adam that decided to call a cow and a tiger a tiger? I mean, 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. So again, here we're getting this reference. Cattle, fowl, beast. But for Adam, there was not found an help meet for him. So Adam was lonely. Although I don't know how he would have any concept of that. I don't know. 21. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. Okay. So he's made him, he's breathed life into him, and now he's putting him to sleep. And he slept, and he took one of his ribs. So again, here are we talking about, you know, genetic fuckery here? Is this what this is really about? Is this really talking about entities or an entity coming from somewhere else, creating a little segment, you know, taking things, putting them there, and then genetically fucking with stuff? So he's put Adam to sleep. So what, did they give him an anaesthetic, or did they just punch him right in the cooting to knock him out? Or did they pistol whip him? I mean, I don't fucking know here. There's not enough info. I need more information, right? And took one of his ribs. They don't need it, because I mean, it's because you know, just made a spare rib, some barbecue sauce. I mean, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. So definitely, I mean, we've got this, you know, people interpret they've got this God, this metaphysical, omnipotent God, but yet here we're getting descriptions of surgical procedures, which means opposable thumbs and implements to slice Adam open, take his rib out, and then take the genetic coding and then grow Eve in a lab. Is that what we're talking about here? 22. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man. So it's no Adam, it's just man. Right? So there's a flip-flop of the words that are being used here. We're going from Adam and new man. And again, it referenced taking man from here and putting him in the Garden of Eden, whereas it referenced before Adam and Eve were already in the Garden of Eden. Taking from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Okay. So, women are just, you know, spare ribs. 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Oh, man. So then what? Adam would have been procreating, you know, making love to himself, you know, but incest, I mean, I don't know. 24. Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. What? Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Are we just talking about breeding here? So that the two fleshes come together and they produce one flesh. We'll get father and mother talk here now. This has now been introduced as part of the language as well. Where did these concepts, these languages, where did it come from? Anyway, 25. And they were both naked. Now, I hope to fuck this Garden of Eden was warm. Good temperatures. The man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Well, why would they be? Where would shame even come? Is that no a concept of society? You know, if there was no society, where would their concepts even come of shame? To be naked? I don't know. Ah, fuck. Anyway, so that's the end of Genesis chapter 2. I will flick it over. We'll see how far we get. Well, I'm going to read another part of this, and then I will get back to Genesis. So we'll give it 3 each, right? We're at 11 o'clock, so we'll go 3 each. So once I get to the end of that, you know, I'm going to go back to the Satanic Bible, come back to Genesis for part 3, and then we'll finish with the Satanic Bible again, and then we'll open up for a bit of discussion. We're on nearly 11 o'clock, so anyway, I'm just going to take a wee quick break and roll myself a smoke again. Right. Gav, you still about there? What are you getting?
Come on.
Have you lost the will to live? Are you losing interest in
Well, I enjoyed I mean, I've never read the Satanic Bible, so it's the first time I'm hearing some of these, how should I say, maxims, or I'm not quite sure that the comparison you're making between the two is correct, because a lot of this Genesis stuff, obviously, it doesn't apply to the Satanic Bible, so I'm not sure if we're getting a real relation. But what I'm taking away is, you know, there certainly seems to be a lot more metaphysical things, words that are not understandable, to be quite honest, from the Bible, a lot of ambiguity. Whereas in the other one, there's a lot of kind of, you know, nearly common sense maxims, or as you quite rightly said, you know, things that are talking about the psychology of human behavior, and, you know, be intellectually honest with yourself. You know, in some ways there are commonalities, like, do unto others what you would have them do unto you, and all that is probably common to both.
Yeah.
So in a way, you can, I think the message is, look at the content and take away the meaning. But I'm finding the Bible a lot harder than the other one at the moment.
Right. Well, I wasn't putting it up there as really it's just because these seem to be the two opposing factions, that are offered up. That you're either this way or that way. So what I'm doing is I'm just reading these two kind of teachings or literatures for what they are. I'm not really trying to draw comparisons, but if there is comparisons, then I'll highlight it. I'm just offering it up as a look at, two sides of this dichotomy, if you like. So.
No, I mean, that's just what I'm trying to do. Find either commonalities or opposing things in it. The general picture is there's a lot of metaphysics and belief in one, and there's more, how should I say, rational discussion about human psychology and behavior and the other one. That's what I'm getting at the moment,
But what about what I'm getting from so far from the first part of this Genesis? Are you getting the same as me? Like there's like a flip flop of I'm really starting to see, like, are we looking at a genetic manipulation here? Are we looking at fuckery going on from taking life from other places and placing it, because there's flip-flops of words being used, us and them, other man, different areas, Adam and Eve already existing, making another man. I mean, taking ribs out, as a surgical procedure. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I'm feeling too that there's a kind of underlying story between all these parables and allegories, At the moment, there definitely seems to be some talk about this creation and whatever, if there was an intent or a manipulation behind it. Yeah. The other thing that you highlighted, I think, was this: where the fuck did Adam learn to speak, and who gave him the language? I think that's a hugely important part of this whole fuck up we're in anyway. Yeah. So I think it's a question to be asking. But yeah, as I say, your endurance is great, my man. Because I'm not sure I could do it.
But it kind of stimulates me, because at the end of the day, I'm learning and I'm going through it, and I can just process it as it's happening. So I enjoy it, regardless of what anybody else is. I'm just showing my openness and honesty is to look at any of these things. Again, I'm not siding with any of them. I'm just taking what I can, if I can take anything for them, see if it makes any sense to me. So that's purely it.
Yep, and I think that's what people should do with any content, or anybody who's saying it. As we say enough, it's nothing to do with who you are, the personality. Look at the content, see what you can take from it. And at the moment, I'm moving, or I'm more towards the other one. But that's what you're about to go for again. So
yeah, cool. I'll probably be about 20 minutes before I get through these other two bits.
No bother. As I say, I haven't heard it before, so I'm listening.
Cool. Right, so Fire, the Book of Satan, the Infernal Diatribe. The first book of the Satanic Bible is not an attempt to blaspheme as much as it is a statement of what might be termed diabolical indignation. The devil has been attacked by the men of God relentlessly and without reservation. Never has there been an opportunity, short of fiction, for the Dark Prince to speak out in the same manner as the spokesman of the Lord of the Righteous. The pulpit pounders of the past have been free to define good and evil as they see fit. So they are. I mean, that is definitely it. That's, people are defining what's good and evil. And again, for me, this is a whole aspect of discussion. A good and evil, is there an objective good and evil, or is it, come down to subjectivity? And again, that's totally opened up for discussion and debate and whatever else. I don't think there's a defining answer from anybody that I've seen so far. Again, I can only answer that from my subjective point of view. And have gladly smashed into oblivion any who disagree with their lies. So again, that's true. Anybody who speaks out against it, that goes a different way. Again, we'll get to this guy that's wrote this, is, a lot of propaganda surrounding it, a lot of misrepresentation, barefaced lies. So both verbally and at times physically, their talk of charity, when applied to his infernal majesty, becomes an empty sham, and most unfairly too. So again, referencing, you know, the talk of charity and openness and willing to resolve and understand and all that stuff, but yet, you know, they want to condemn this opposer or this other entity, which is fine to do so. You know, and again, to me, getting into the psychology of people right now, when we talk about psychopathic manipulative behaviour, I don't want to chastise and just oppress these people. I would rather formulate an understanding, understand their methods, understand their mind, their approach, what they're about, because then I'm empowered to know, rather than just dismissing them because they don't align with my subjective, you know, walk, and then, you know, putting them in a pigeonhole and that's it, just dismissed. That doesn't offer me any new understanding of these types of minds or these people, so I can get that interpretation from that. Becomes an empty sham and most unfairly too. Considering the obvious fact that without their satanic foe, their very religions would collapse, again, which is true because they have to have this dichotomy of the two opposed sides. How sad that the allegorical personage most responsible for the success of spiritual religions is shown the least amount of charity. So there again, you can see that he's referencing the allegorical personage, because, you know, he's talking about it that they're no actual beings, they're just allegories, you know, showing the least amount of charity and the most consistent abuse. Yeah, and by those who most unctuously preach the rules of fair play. So again, he's highlighting contradictions, which again we've seen in this arena. People who profess the spiritual oneness, empathetic, loving, you know, all that fluffy stuff, but yet as soon as somebody comes with some sort of opposing, you know, statement or question, they immediately return with vitriol and hatred and abuse, which is happening to me, as I'm sure many people are aware. So we see this type of hypocrisy running rife through the human psychology. For all the centuries of shouting down the devil has received, he has never shouted back at his detractors. He has remained the gentleman at all times, while those he supports rants and rave. He has shown himself to be a model of deportment, but now he feels it is time to shout back. So he's just claiming to represent this hypothetical, you know, non-entity. He knows that he's not really representing an actual entity. He's just taking their narrative and turning it on them. He has decided it is finally time to receive his due. Now the ponderous rule books of hypocrisy are no longer needed. In order to relearn the law of the jungle, a small, slim diatribe will do. Each verse is an inferno. Each word is a tongue of fire. The flames of hell burn fierce and purify. Read on and learn the law. Okay. So, the Book of Satan 1, number 1. In this arid wilderness of steel and stone, I raise up my voice that you may hear. To the east and to the west I beckon, to the north and to the south I show a sign proclaiming death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. So again, you know, this first one we could start interpreting that. You know, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a kind of Darwinian concept and attitude of, you know, just the strongest will survive and fuck the weak? Are we talking about it in terms of a psychological state of mind? And what he, you know, interprets as a weak mind or a weakling. I don't know. We'll have to get further in and see if it's defined as to what he means by weak. 2, open your eyes that you may see, O men of mild-wed minds, and listen to me, ye bewildered millions. 3, for I stand forth to challenge the wisdom of the world, to interrogate the laws of man and of God. So it says, you know, he's proclaiming that he's standing up and saying, fuck you. I'm going to ask questions of all these things and of everybody and whatever I see, which again, you know, I totally align with. For me, that's the attitude that people must take. You know, professed wisdoms of the world and the laws of man and of God. So these things that have been told to us through religious teachings, through law, through political structures. For me, you know, question the whole lot of it and stand up on your own 2 feet and have every right to question and discern for yourself. That's what I take from that. 4, I request reason for your golden rule and ask thee the why and wherefore of your 10 commandments. So he's basically saying, you know, where are you getting this from and what gives you the right to try and impose it? Basically, what gives you the authority? 5, before none of your printed idols do, I bend in acquiescence. So basically saying, you know, he's not going to bend in acquiescence to any of these professed idols. What has been professed and told is, you know, a religious story of creation and who rules it and who their God is. And he who saith, thou shalt, to me is my mortal foe. Again, I totally align with that, because anybody, again, you always talk about the psychology of this. You know, you're your authority, and anybody trying to impose any of authority over you, I would treat them as my foe, because I'm not trying to impose my law, my way on anybody. I can only align with those that are aligned with, you know, what I am and what I'm pursuing. And that's it. That way you get reciprocity. It's consensual. Okay? So anybody trying to impose any form of law or code on you, again, you treat them as your foe, which is true, and you question it. So I don't see any issue there with number 5. I totally agree with it. Number 6, I dip my forefinger in the watery blood of your impotent mad redeemer, and write over his thorn-torn brow the 2 princes of evil, the king of slaves. So he sees, you know, this idea of, you know, Jesus, this idea of somebody dying for your sins, which again, for me, I agree with that, because that promotes a lack of responsibility. It promotes weakness. It promotes, you know, lack of individualism and people standing up, taking responsibility for them and their actions. And he sees that whole teaching as being disempowering and breeding weakness in the psyche of an individual. Again, I totally agree with that, because I'm not going to, you know, lay down everything in my life and just throw it up in the air into the hands of some story or narrative that's been written by man, of some man that lived so many thousand years ago, that done all this for me, died for my sins, and blah, blah, blah. So for me, it seems to be pointing towards, you know, take responsibility for yourself, and this other aspect breeds, you know, disempowerment. So 7, no hoary falsehood shall be a truth to me, no stifling dogma shall encramp my pen. Again, it's just a reiteration of what I just said. So he's not going to accept any falsehoods that he sees no rational, logical reason to have faith in, and no stifling dogma. So he does see it as a stifling dogma, and he's not going to let it into his psychology. And he's saying, encramp my pen. That's what he means. That's what I interpret as. He's talking about his mind, his being. So 8, I break away from all conventions that do not lead to my earthly success and happiness. So anything that's taken away from finding self-satisfaction, contentment, and happiness, he's going to, you know, remove it and walk away from it. So again, I don't see any issue with that. 9, I raise up in stern invasion the standard of the strong. I need to say anything on that. So again, he's calling and wants people to be standing up and being strong on their own 2 feet. I totally agree with that as well. 10, I gaze into the glassy eye of your fearsome Jehovah and pluck him by the beard. I uplift a broad axe and split open his worm-eaten skull. So he's talking, you know, in elaborate terms, you know, about showmanship here. Don't think he's meaning it actually literally. Obviously, it's not literal, because he doesn't believe in these entities. So he's just, it's his refusal to accept this type of psychology and these teachings, and that's him saying, fuck you, you know, I'm just going to say these things because, you know, he's totally opposed to it. He's a bit of a showman. He wants to sensationalise his distaste for it. So, 11. I blast out the ghastly contents of philosophically whited sepulchres. Some of these words I need to go and have a wee look at, and laugh with sardonic wrath. So basically saying these teachings that are disempowering and remove responsibility, he's going to ridicule them and oppose them and stand up against it. Okay. Book of Satan 2. I'll just get to the end of this and then I'll go back to the Genesis, because that's the end of that one. That's fine. So, Book of Satan 2, number 1. Behold the crucifix. What does it symbolize? Pallid incompetence hanging on a tree. Okay. So, you know, he basically sees it as a symbol of acceptance, acquiescence, apathy, sacrificing yourself, laying down for somebody else's law. Again, you know, just focusing on the psychology of that, and for me it is detrimental. Number 2, I question all things as I stand before the festering and varnished facades of your haughtiest moral dogmas. I write thereon in letters of blazing scorn, lo and behold, all this is a fraud. So again, you know, just his contempt at the hypocritical teachings as he sees them. I think that pretty much explains itself. 3, gather around me, O ye death defiant, and the earth itself shall be thine, to have and to hold. So basically saying, if you take that attitude, life is yours, your mind is yours, and you can achieve whatever you want without subjecting yourself and guessing yourself to the teachings of some dogma. 4, too long the dead hand has been permitted to sterilise living thought. Again, just self-explanatory. I don't need to get too much into that. 5, too long right and wrong, good and evil, I have been inverted by false prophets. So again, making reference to this interpretations of right and wrong, good and evil. Where do they actually come from? Again, this is open to discussion because it's a huge topic of discussion and has never been resolved, and I don't think it ever will be. You know. 6, no creed must be accepted upon authority of a divine nature. Religions must be put to the question. No moral dogma must be taken for granted. Again, it's just questioning, where do they get these things from? You have to discern for yourself. You have to question it. Where do they get their authority? Where is it being granted from? What's the proof of that? So these are questions I would definitely ask. No standard of measurement is deified. There is nothing inherently sacred about moral codes. Okay, so basically saying that, you know, they are just ideas. They're just creations of man. Like the wooden idols of long ago, they are the work of human hands, and what man has made, man can destroy. Exactly. So as you see, we get these people, we've seen it, look at it in the arenas, you know, they make these laws, they try and push them over as laws that are, you know, unified and held as some sort of objective foundation, but yet the majority of these people go against them. There's one law for us and there's one law for another. So, he that is slow to believe anything and everything is of great understanding. Okay, for belief in one false principle is the beginning of all unwisdom. So again, we're getting into some of this kind of, you know, logical reasoning here. You know, and as I've always said, for me, belief just doesn't have any place in the human mind. Okay, and belief in one false principle is the beginning of all unwisdom, and so we have seen that. Look at the state of us, you know, with belief in things that we can't prove, taking things for granted, being apathetic, being lazy, and where does it get you? Okay, it gets us into this situation. So again, he's pointing towards that and trying to stand up against it. 8. The chief duty of every new age is to upraise new men, to determine its liberties, to lead it towards material success, to rend the rusty padlocks and chains of dead custom that always prevent healthy expansion. Theories and ideas that may have meant life and hope and freedom for our ancestors may now mean destruction, slavery, and dishonour to us. Exactly. So these ideas can change and adapt through time, just depending, you know. 9. As environments change, no human ideal standeth sure. Exactly, that's what I just said. 10. Whenever, therefore, a lie has built unto itself a throne, let it be assailed without pity and without regret, for under the domination of an inconvenient falsehood, no one can prosper. Exactly. And that's what we're living right now. "11. Let established sophisms be dethroned, rooted out, burnt and destroyed, for they are a standing menace to all true nobility of thought and action." Again, this is mirroring exactly my stance. And again, for me, it's true and it's healthy for humans. Listen to it. Let established sophisms be dethroned, rooted out, burnt and destroyed, which is exactly what people in me are pursuing for right now. So I don't see any issues with that whatsoever, for they are a standing menace to all true nobility of thought and action, which they are, which we see as a result today. People believe in absurdities. They have false foundations. You know, the whole place is a mess. 12. Whatever alleged truth is proven by results to be put in an empty fiction, let it be unceremoniously flung into the outer darkness among the dead gods, dead empires, dead philosophies, and other useless lumber and wreckage. 13. The most dangerous of all enthroned lies is the holy, the sanctified, the privileged lie. The lie everyone believes to be a model truth. It is the fruitful mother of all other popular errors and delusions. It is a hydra-headed tree of unreason with 1,000 roots. It is a social cancer. Exactly. So you have a foundational assumption, faulty, flawed belief, a premise, and anything, you know, it's just going to breed, you know, as he stated in his words. What was it there? It's a fruitful mother of all other popular errors and delusions. A hydra-headed tree of unreason with 1,000 roots. Again, you know, this looks like a parallel to the world we see and we're living in right now. You know? 14. The lie that is known to be a lie is half eradicated, but the lie that even intelligent persons accept as fact, the lie that has been inculcated in a little child at its mother's knee, is more dangerous to contend against than a creeping pestilence. Exactly. So let's look at that in parallel with the globe. You know, impressionable children, you know, having lies forced upon them. 15. Popular lies have ever been the most potent enemies of personal liberty. Again, you know, referencing here, look at the parallels with what we're living right now. There is only one way to deal with them: cut them out to the very core, just as cancers. Exterminate them, root and branch, annihilate them, or they will us. Spot on. 100% agree with that. Okay. So we're getting into the book of Satan 3, love one another, but I'll get to that, I'll come back. I'm just going to go Genesis 3, and then I'll read the book of Satan part 3, and then we'll leave it there for the evening, and we'll pick it up at a later date. So I'm back to Genesis right now. So Genesis chapter 3, the serpent, Lucifer, deceives Eve. So again, we're just jumping in here. We're not getting any, you know, descriptor of where these things are coming from. So anyway, she and then Adam partake of the forbidden fruit. Her seed, Christ, will bruise the serpent's head. The roles of woman and of man are explained, Adam and Eve are cast out of the Garden of Eden. Adam presides. Eve becomes the mother of all living. Right. 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. So, this God, this entity, did he make the serpent? There's no reference to it. We'll just accept that he made all these things, or they made all these things, or all these things were brought from somewhere else. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Question. 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. 3. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. So, well, again, I need to ask, why the fuck he put it there in the first place? You know, and what's he really pointing towards here? So again, we're looking at, you know, a proposition of trying to create automaton type beings for whatever purpose, and now we've got a wee snake in the grass that's coming in and wanting to whisper in your ears and say, by the way, it's not all as it seems, you need to have a wee look at this. I mean, I don't know, maybe the serpent's really good, fuck knows, I'm still trying to interpret this. 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Okay. 5. For God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So maybe that is the case. Maybe this serpent has been given a bad rap, and really we're looking at malevolent type beings that are trying to formulate something for themselves, and they're trying to stop these beings from ever questioning their own existence, because if they do, these beings may be found out and lose their power. So maybe that's what's going on here. And really this serpent's been portrayed in a bad light, but really the serpent was there trying to help them. I don't know. Because if they understood good and evil, then they would become as gods. And as I have referenced, what gods are we looking at here? Are God that wouldn't want an empowered equal. You would have to be looking at a God that wants subservience, that wants you, you know, oppressed and under his trodden foot, you know? Whereas this serpent's trying to remove that and say, by the way, you know, you can be the same, you can be an equal. Just have a look at this. Don't listen to that fucker. I don't know. So say maybe the snake's a good guy in all this. 6. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. So did Adam know that he was being fed that then? I don't know. Or are we talking that it wasn't really food? You know, they were gaining knowledge and she was sharing the knowledge with him? I don't know. You know, because then if it was really about just eating an apple and all of a sudden you get wisdom from nowhere just by eating an apple, then surely Adam can't really be held accountable, because he's put trust in Eve, who makes his dinner, and Eve's bringing him fruit. Maybe she didn't tell him. Maybe she thought, I know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to tell Adam, and I'll just see what happens. Women can be manipulative and sneaky that way, you know. Right. 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Right. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So what happened here then? This tree that they're referencing is, again, we're left with two options. Either it's an analogy for, you know, some other avenue of getting knowledge, or it really is, you know, just this tree with fruit on it, and it's a magical fruit, and you eat it, and you get new knowledge that comes from nowhere. And now all of a sudden they become self-conscious. So where did they learn that? Was that through the apple? Again, did they have access to seeing what was outside of the containment they were being kept in. They seen how other beings were living, and then they started to formulate self-consciousness and thought, well, we better do that. I mean, I don't know. Made themselves aprons. 8. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden. So we've got a voice that walks. Does a voice have a form? I don't know what we're talking about here. Walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. So were they becoming aware, were they being told that this entity that's professing to be their creator and their Lord God and all that stuff, they know that he's malevolent, and that it's no what he's made out to be, and they're no scared and they want to hide from him. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him, Where art thou? 10. And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. So all of a sudden, Adam's got this self-consciousness, and maybe, he's ashamed of the size of his penis or something. I don't fucking know. I mean, where would he get that? How would he have a reference to even know that the size of his penis was irrelevance, and that this entity maybe has a bigger penis and he's now got an inferiority complex, so he wanted to hide himself? I mean, how did these things come about? I don't fucking know. Again, 11. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? Exactly, God. I mean, this is what I want to know. Who told him he was naked, and who told him it was an issue? How did he get that info? Right? 12. And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. All right. So Adam did have knowledge, or did Eve wait until he ate and then said, Oh, by the way, Adam, I gave you fruit from the tree that God told us not to eat for? Right? And now Adam's like, oh, fuck. And now Adam's a grass. So Adam's now grassing in his missus. It was her. She done it. Wasn't me. I didn't know. She told me afterwards. 13. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. So now we've got this aspect, this, mere complexity. This serpent who may or may not be trying to help her, but she's now sticking the serpent in it. So she's a grass as well. She can't just take responsibility. She's acting like irresponsible. Oh, I didn't know. So we've got a man and a woman here. So did they not have a chance to grow and evolve and become mature? Were they just created as man and woman at 30 years old with the mind of an infant? And they're blaming the serpent for all this and blaming each other. It was him, he made me do it. I mean, 14. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. So, what kind of serpent was it? Was it not already on its belly? I mean, and what was it eating before that? Now it's going to eat dirt. I don't get what that means. Did they turn it into a worm? Did they not even... I mean, again, we're dealing with somebody that's irrational. Did they not even have a word with the serpent and say, by the way, what were you up to there? What was your reasoning? What was your intent behind telling her that? Surely the serpent would have said, Here you prick. Why the fuck did you even make me in the first place? To be able to do that? Why did you not just make me without the ability to do that? Right? So what are we looking at again? I think you go back to it. Is this serpent trying to help them? Trying to let them know that something's not quite right? And now this entity is wanting to punish it because it's been identified as a snake in the grass. It's a problem. You're disrupting my wee paradigm that I'm trying to create here. I'm going to punish you. And if it was already crawling in its belly, I don't know how that's a punishment. I mean, I don't know. 15. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. What the fuck that means? Does that mean somebody got a slap and somebody get kicked in the shin? I mean, I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. Don't know. I can't get into that at all. Again, you know, maybe somebody can offer some sort of interpretations to these things. 16. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. So he's really getting harsh on the woman here, because she was beguiled by the snake. But surely again you would have to look at it and say, well, you're a wee bit immature. You know, it was a bit irresponsible of me just to fuck you here in the garden, leave you there, and then make a serpent that's got the ability to fucking communicate with you and tell you these things. Wee bit irresponsible on my part. I'll need to take responsibility for that. But no, he's just, you know, he's punished the fucking snake, and now he's fucking hammering the woman here. And she's now going to have loads of sorrow and bring forth children. Did she not already have the capability to bring forth children before? So he made these two, but they didn't have the ability to breed. I mean, I don't fucking know. I mean, what's going on? And thy desire shall be to thy husband. So she's going to desire a man. Would you not need that in order to have procreation to replenish the place in the first place? I mean, and he shall rule over thee. So he's now giving Adam. So he's believed Adam here by the looks of it. Oh, Adam's all right in all this. Although Adam's a grass as well, you know. Did Adam not taste the different fruit? Was Adam not a wee bit suspicious? Did the two fruits look the same and smell and taste the same? I mean, I don't know how this would hold up in a court of law, you know, up to any kind of rational, you know, reasonable investigation, to be honest with you. 17. And unto Adam he said, because thou, he's now right, he's going to punish Adam now, right? Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife. Right, so he's giving Adam a hard time for listening to his wife. I don't know, but Adam wouldn't have had any reason not to trust his wife in the first place. So again, we're getting a wee bit irrational here, right? And hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it. But has it been established that Adam knew what he was eating? Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. What? I don't get that. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. What were they eating before that? Did they not say he made all these things that were there for meat in the first place? And now he's just saying, oh, you're going to eat that for the rest of your life? Well, I thought that was a plan in the first place. I don't know. 18. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. I don't know how that's a punishment. The herbs of the field are quite tasty. I like my herbs and spices and shit like that. I mean, I don't know how this is a fucking punishment, to be honest with you. 19. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. I'm still not getting how this is a punishment. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. So he's now scared and needs the security and comfort of Eve. God's making him scared. 21. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins and clothed them. 22. And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us. There we go again. There we go again. The man is become as one of us. Who the fuck is this us? This is definitely about fucking, you know, crossbreeding and genetic fucking about and taking things and creating new areas and putting them in it and making new rules and punishing anybody that tries to inform them about what's going on beyond or something like that. And it has become as one of us to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. I don't know what to make of that, but sorry. 23. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken. So definitely. So that's definitely for me. These were taken to a certain area, and now because they upset or something, you know, they've upset these beings or this being, they've now been sent packing back to this other area. 24. So he drove out the man. Drove him out. With what? And he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. I've got nothing to offer there for that last part. I don't know what that's. East of the Garden of Eden. So we're definitely talking about areas, separate areas here. The flaming sword. It's quite elaborate, you know. A sword that's on fire, I mean, which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life. So we're talking about something that symbolises the access to this tree of life that's in some other area. And you know, this is what I'm getting for this. It seems to be that this is what's going on here. This is what I'm getting for it. Seems to be an intertwining of different things and two stories and taking life from other places and trying to keep it for yourself and keep the knowledge of what's beyond. And, you know, I don't know. Anyway, right, that's the end of Genesis 3. Now I'm going to get to the Book of Satan thing, part 3, and then we'll open up. So bear with me, I got a wee smoke. Gav, I mean, you can feel free to pipe in here or whatever you want if you're still there.
I am still here, my man. I quite like that word, inculcated. It's in the instilling of an idea, or an attitude, or a habit by persistent instruction.
Right.
Which is something that's happened to all of us, I think. So.
Aye. Exactly.
But yeah, the story doesn't make sense, you know. I mean, when I see or when I hear I'm not sure that the Satanic Bible is a wise choice to label it. And I see where the guy's coming from, where he's trying to, you know, knock down this religious book and stand against it, because what he seems to be saying, or what that philosophy is saying, is, you know, stand up, take responsibility, don't bow down to authorities. I mean, a hell of a lot of the things that are very, very close to the fucking predicament we are in and what we should be doing about it. So for me, a lot of maxims are common sense. So I'm really glad you've stated that. And the other one seems to be exactly the same as the way I remembered it. And the reason that I, you know, grew up an atheist, because it seems like a lot of, you know, complicated sophism and, you know, stories that I just can't make any sense of, and it's very disempowering, you know. You got to believe in stuff. You got to, you know, you got to wait for the good things to happen, you know. You got to I don't know, all these. I mean, the only good thing in there is maybe the talk about women, because I don't know what I'd fucking do without them. But on the other hand, the whole thing just turns me off, you know, to be honest. And it's the reason I suppose people go towards atheism, right? Because of the difficulty in understanding what the fuck they're trying to say. Yeah.
Exactly. And again, you know, at that time, as you referenced, you know, I've read a wee bit before, and pretty much you got to go back. You're talking about the 60s here when he's formulated this. And again, you know, showmanship to get notoriety. You know, he's standing up just to be, you know, contrarian. You know, if they're saying that's a bad guy, I'm just going to use that as a representative, just as a big fuck you. No, because he believes in a literal, you know, God and devil. You know, he was just using it as a symbol of a fuck you. And again, I can look at it and say, well, of course, if this book is turning out to be a book of self-empowerment and common sense, you can then understand why the powers that be, manipulators, want to surround it with propaganda and fear tactics so that people will never go and investigate it, because it could empower them. It could instill an attitude of fuck you, and I'm going to stand up and take responsibility, and I'm not going to believe and be influenced by this, you know, bullshit anymore. So I can look at it and I can interpret that. That's why it's surrounded with so much propaganda.
And I'm fully on board with you that, because if you look at the amount of times the Bible has been tortured, right, and how many books have been written about it, how many interpretations, you know, and then you think about the Satanic Bible, which, you know, for most of us is hidden, let's call it, right? It's not something, and that's by design, probably by couching it in that horribleness, ugliness, right, that it's supposed to have, so that people don't look at the content of it properly and use it as, or see it as wise words that should be listened to, you know, or at least take those things that, you know, make sense out of it. So yeah, seems to me they've put a cover on it to stop people looking at it. Absolutely.
Exactly. So right, well, I've just got the last part here, mate, and then as I say, we're going to open up, so it shouldn't take me long. There only is, you know, part 3 is only up to number 9 here, so we've only got, you know, 9 wee sentences to get through. So the Book of Satan 3, number 1. Love one another. This is in quotations, so it's quote, love one another, unquote. It has been said as the supreme law, but what power made it so? Upon what rational authority does the gospel of love rest? Why should I not hate mine enemies? If I love them, does that not place me at their mercy? So again, you know, common sense, of course. You know, this is why, you know, I have an issue with this, why this is branded a book of love and love one another. And again, it comes back to the reference before of responsibility of the responsible. I'm not going to go just misplacing my love and my affections and my attentions to people that are just going to take it and abuse it, you know. But yet we get taught these narratives of just love everything and forgive everything and it's all wonderful. But where does that really get you? In reality, people don't really follow that through, you know, because people understand that, you know, there's abusive people out there, there's manipulative people who will take your kindness or your love or whatever it may be, and they will abuse it. So you have to be responsible with these types of things. And again, I totally agree. And an enemy, somebody who's oppressing you, somebody who's imposing on your free will, somebody who's physically abusing you, what, you have to turn the other cheek and love them? No, that doesn't happen. In reality, a bully only learns his lesson when you stand up and no accept it, kick him right in the fucking balls and tell him you're not accepting it. So again, it comes down to, you know, different experiences and layers of experience and situations where you have to discern these things and you know, attribute it to whatever. But again, I totally agree. These things are branded about, and they're no really reality, and they can be detrimental to people, you know, as I've experienced in my naive times in life, where I had to learn that I can't just misplace my love or my affection or compassion or empathy to those that don't really embrace it, you know. So don't have an issue with that. 2, Is it natural for enemies to do good unto each other? And what is good? Again, you know, it comes back to subjectivity. What is good? Nobody has the right to brand it as an objective thing and try and impose that onto people. So, 3. Can the torn and bloody victim love the blood-splashed jaws that rent him limb from limb? Exactly. So that's it. You know, I don't think people who are, you know, I'll just use that. I don't think people who are being eaten alive by a shark are thinking to themselves, oh, it's okay, I love it. No, they fucking hate it. And if they could, they would claw its eyes out and stab it with whatever implement they had in order to survive. So, 4. Are we not all predatory animals by instinct? Question. If humans ceased wholly from preying upon each other, could they continue to exist? Now here is a very good, you know, question. Again, I'm going to leave that one. I think we could leave that open for a proper discussion. 5. Is not lust and carnal desire a more truthful term to describe love? Again, these are aspects that I want to get into at a later time, and what we call love and our ideas of love and these things that are taught to us in regards to relationships, how they should be, what love should be, marriage, you know, loyalties, all these types of things, and do they truly align with what we actually are? When applied to the continuance of the race, question mark, is not the love of the fawning scriptures simply a euphemism for sexual activity, or was the great teacher a glorifier of eunuchs? Again, I don't know what that word means. I'll need to look that up. So again, this is getting into asking these questions about these ideas and concepts of love, and you know, things that people pursue. And there are people who love each other for a lifetime, that are loyal for a lifetime. You know, is that through a conscious choice of buying into an idea? Again, these things for me are open to discussion and things that I can focus on at a later date. So, 6. Love your enemies and do good to them that hate and use you. Is this not the despicable philosophy of the spaniel that rolls upon its back when kicked? So basically saying that, you know, don't be subject to anybody's will, especially if it's not aligned with you and it's not consented. You know, and this attitude of love them anyway. No, you're not going to say that when they're attacking you and they're right in your face abusing you there and then, you know. But the message that he's referring to was you to turn the other cheek and love them anyway, you know, which again, is that realistic? Is that good for you? Is that going to get you anywhere? Or these people who show these attributes, would they ever learn if you never stood up? Would a bully learn he was a bully and learn the error of his ways if everybody just rolled over and let the bully away with it his whole life? No, the bully learns, the bully self-reflects. Some bullies are predatory. Some bullies learn where they can get away with it because that's what they're trying to pursue. So, hate your enemies with a whole heart. This is number 7. And if a man smite you on one cheek, smash him on the other. Smite him hip and thigh, for self-preservation is the highest law. So here, you know, again, interpretations, we could be interpreting that as if you're being physically attacked, you know, and you are not the aggressor, then by rights, you have every right to return with, you know, as much as you have to offer and at whatever level you have in order to get yourself out of that situation. Again, does that really have to be said to you? You know, it's true. And those that don't become the victims. So, again, it comes down to, you know, a bit of reasoning, a bit of rational thought, and the levels of what you're applying in regards to what you're receiving and how you're going to return that or make your point. Again, you know, a reference to somebody scratched my car, so I'm going to murder them. Again, here, you know, it's somebody pissed in my garden, so I'm going to go and knife them to death. No, that just doesn't add up to the be responsible to the responsible. You know, there's levels of reasoning and being rational and how you're going to approach these things. So again, it's left open. I think it does kind of refine it a wee bit and get more into more detail as the book goes on. So 8, he who turns the other cheek is a cowardly dog. I totally agree. You know, we don't just lie back and accept things. If there's a wrong happening and there's absurdities happening, lies happening, we stand up against them. Okay. 9, give blow for blow, scorn for scorn, doom for doom. So it's basically just an eye for an eye. Again, with the levels, as I'm saying, somebody pisses in my garden, I'll go and piss in their garden and see how they like it. I'm not going to blow their house up or set it on fire because they pissed in my garden. I think you're overstepping the mark. But again, open to, you know, discussion about the levels and should there be, you know, even these balanced levels, or do you just have the right? You know, if somebody does that to you, then you deal with them whatever way you see fit. Again, we can leave it open to discussion. Yeah. Doom for doom. With compound interest liberally added thereunto. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, eye fourfold, 100-fold. Make yourself a terror to your adversary, and when he goeth his way, he will possess much additional wisdom to ruminate over. Again, what I was referencing, how does the bully know? If you don't stand up against it and give him the opportunity to reflect on the behaviours, then he's never going to know anything else. Again, going back to the animal kingdom, the pups and the litter, biting each other, seeing how far they can push it, they get a response, then they learn how far they can go, what the boundaries are. But if we don't have that, then one can just start ruling over the rest because they're not standing up. They're not taking a stand and saying enough's enough. Thus shall you make yourself respected in all the walks of life and your spirit, your immortal spirit. So again, we're getting reference here that this guy does have a faith or a belief that, you know, you're an immortal spirit. So he does have a belief in some sort of metaphysical aspect. Shall live not in an intangible paradise, but in the brains and sinews of those whose respect you have gained. Okay, so I stand corrected. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about amongst those who are living. You'll be held in that regard and, you know, have an influence. So anyway, I'm going to just save these just now. That's the end of that one. And I'll go to part 2 at a later date. So I'm now open for discussion. If anybody wants to come in and have a bit of discussion in regards to this topic. I don't know if any Marshall's received any requests, or if we're just going to post it directly into the comments. We're getting on a bit, so I think in future I'll make these readings at an earlier time so that, you know, I'm not as tired and other people can come in and have a discussion on the topic. But just to stay true to my word, I'll open up just now for a wee period to see who's got what to say.
Well, Dol, the link has been put into the chat box, anticipating this eventuality, and despite the amount of keyboard warriors that seem to be rather opinionated about the whole issue, there's been no offers to join us. So any of you people in there, I mean, Gordon Hamilton, who apparently is one of your fellow countrymen and is close by to you there. He seems to have a lot to say for himself.
In regards to this topic?
Well, in regards to just being rather slanderous. So I've invited him to join if he wants to come and actually say something.
Yeah, cool.
I noticed Awake Souls was in earlier on, giving it large as well, but he seems to have declined the request.
Exactly. You know, because this is the thing, these guys are agents of propaganda, and they just want to slant and taint things in a certain direction. And, you know, here I'm opening up to all these accusations where they spoke about their religious narratives and how, you know, I didn't want to go there, and I was aligned with this satanic stuff. And now I'm opening it up and actually looking at the literature and interpreting it and having a discussion about it. They don't want to engage in an actual discussion because they just want to push a slant. So it's the usual for them. Now they're not going to have a leg to stand on in regards to this, because the opportunities are here for them. This is going to take a while through a period of time to get through these literatures. So they're going to have opportunities to speak, and they're more than welcome to come. So if you see them in these comment sections just spewing garbage, you know that they're disingenuous, because they're not willing to come and have an open discussion about it. So fuck them, they're irrelevant.
Right, well said. I'll stay here until somebody comes, but I thoroughly enjoyed the verses of the so-called Satanic Bible. I think they're more maxims of common sense and more empowering. And, you know, if I was to think today, if the book was given a different title, right, and the author was Jordan Peterson, right, instead of telling boys to clean up their rooms and get their shoulders straight, if he showed that kind of maxims of common sense, how to, you know, take responsibility for your life, you know, how to stand up for yourself, you know, don't get bullied, don't believe bullshit, you know, all these things are very valid, and I'm sure that book would be read by a lot more people, you know. Yeah. The fact that it's got a bad cover, you know, or a cover that's been portrayed as ugly and bad is a bit of a shame, to be honest. So yeah. If you've got that link, can you send it to me, man, privately? I'll have a wee read at that myself.
See, this is the thing. You know, I expressed this, and I've expressed it before. I was subject to that type of propaganda and the fear-mongering, because I remember when I went and ordered it, I felt like I was a naughty fucking schoolboy doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and I had all this emotional turmoil, and you know, and I'm going, are the spirits going to come and punish me? Am I going to be smited for being, you know, disrespectful and looking at this taboo book? And even when I got it, I was fucking trembling as I opened the pages and going, oh, what am I reading? What am I going to, is there going to be demons jumping out at me here? And
it must have been pretty bad. If you, even with a Catholic upbringing, must be the worst.
I never even had a religious upbringing, but that shows you the power of propaganda.
It does,
you
indeed.
Know, I didn't have any slants or like that, or conscious slants to even have that. But the propaganda had an impact. And as I said, I've expressed it before, I was, you know, scared of reading the book. And as I started to read it, started to alleviate slowly but surely, and to the point I was like, fucking hell. All that for fucking that. That's what it is, you know. So, as I say, I encourage. This is the point of how propaganda works and how fear tactics work. That can subtly scare people. Even somebody like myself that never had a religious background, I can still be subject to these manipulations without really knowing about it. You know. So, it's hugely important, I think, for people to realise some of that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Just taking those phrases, maybe, you know, slightly modernizing the phraseology and the words, you know. Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong that's been said in there. Well, I mean, there's points you can argue about, you know, the one, for example, about, you know, how hard do you retaliate or take vengeance, or, you know, do you do it 100-fold, or do you just go and piss in his garden? You know, I do feel that people who continuously bully need a little bit more than just pissing back the same. They need an extra punch in the face, otherwise they don't fucking get it. So, but you could argue about the degree of you know, 10-fold, 100-fold. So, you know, these things are subjective at the end of the day, or how your constitution is, maybe, you know.
Well, that's it, and that's what I'm saying. I'm remaining objective on it. You know, it's no, I don't align 100% with any of these things. I say we'll just read it, and there's bits in there that I agree, I disagree, things that are, you know, open to interpretation and further discussion. So, you know, I'm going to remain that way. As I say, I'm not aligned with any of them, you know, in particular. So,
well, it's definitely a better read than the other book, you know. You know, I have to say. I mean, I kind of knew it anyway. You don't. I'm not a religious person, and I do believe that, irrespective of which of these philosophies you adhere to, one of the things that I think is important is that everybody suspends those speculations, right? And the Satanic one's not even about religion or Satanism for me, you know, from what I've heard. But the other one most certainly is, you know, and keeping people in that, you know, sleeping beauty world of whatever it is they're hoping that's going to come out of this. I mean, that's the wrong thing. They need to be, you know, realists, direct realists, look at common sense, and we all need to be in on that mindset so that we can actually make a difference, you know.
Exactly. I mean, there's all these other loaded factions, probably created deliberately. So, you know, the term Satanism is given a broad scope and everything's lumped in there. When there's different factions, you know, and I'm the same. Anybody who's, and it says it in this book, if people hear it the further it goes on, you know, it's repulsive to me as it is to the people that wrote that book and anybody else, that people think cutting a fucking cat's throat or sacrificing something to the altar to some invisible deity is just the workings of fucking madmen. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's bizarre.
But hey, you've got a guest. Yeah.
We have Awake Soul stuff.
How you doing? This is I'm just going to introduce you. This is one of these guys that made hit piece videos on me and tried to slander and misrepresent everything that I was talking about. So hopefully he's here to resolve some of that.
Yeah, well, what I called you was a Satanist, and then afterwards,
like an idiot, he's left that bloody call open. Should we go room 2? Damien, take this link, look.
What's going on, Marshall?
Oh, I'll kill the other one. How's that?
Marshall, are we open to you? Are we open to being sniped?
No. That's the Wake Souls not closing the green room call, but everything's cool now, mate. Yeah.
Cool. Right. So you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, we're men that talk about the things that we've done, and I have made those hit pieces. In it, I called you a Satanist, and I just want to clarify what I mean by a Satanist. Make sure everybody understands. The Bible, which you've been reading, it defines a Satanist as a person that's a liar or deceiver. So when false accusations were made against Jesus, or Yahushua is the name that we use, those false accusers were told that their father is the devil, and it's because of lies and deception. So
then you have to look at yourself, because you have told lies and misrepresented me. So does that not then say that your father is the devil?
No. The reason why I made the statement was because there was all the popular flat earth channels supporting the AE map and model, and it's an obvious deception, and we've been exposing that. So it was just part of a campaign to go after all the popular flat earth channels and expose them for promoting an impossible model.
But I didn't promote any of that, and you still lumped me in there. So what's your explanation for that?
You did come out afterwards and admit that you were a Satanist and say that you think it's a right, that it's just being misrepresented, that you made the videos that said that afterwards.
No, I did not. I quite complicitly and openly said that I am not aligned to any of these philosophies. I don't consider myself as a Satanist, a Levian Satanist, or anybody's faction. I am me and I represent me. The message that was told, and you can go back and see it, was read the literature for yourself so that you're empowered, so that you're not subject to propaganda and misunderstanding and misrepresentation. It was clearly stated, and it's been clearly stated from the very off, that I don't represent any map and model. So you don't have a leg to stand on me.
No, but you're reading from the Satanic Bible today. So exactly. You may not use the term Satanist with yourself, but you are doing what a Satanist does, and that is informing people about satanic propaganda. So
what's the propaganda? Highlight exactly where the propaganda is that I've just read.
Well, as a Christian, our stance is that the Bible is the truth in this world, and so we are in a position where we're ready to defend the Bible as being the truth in this world, and the Bible clearly does explain that these other doctrines were, you are gods and you are these self-empowered entities that are going to become part of a singularity, or whatever the variation is, that they're not the truth.
So you think that there's an issue with people like me that have an issue with subservience, and that I should bow myself to some hierarchical power structure that has dominion over me that doesn't want an equal. Because for me, I have a real issue with that, even in just a psychology based scenario. I have a real issue with that. So I don't really know what your problem is. To me, what you're advocating for then is subservience to some omnipotent overseer. And I really do have an issue with that, because it breeds and promotes disempowerment and irresponsibility.
If you knew my message at all, it's not like that at all. I do not. I hate the wicked authority of this world as well. It's being ruled so corrupt that it leaves, you know, so many of us in a position where the chances of ever having the idealistic lifestyle that we would want to have, it's rendered it impossible. So I do hate the wicked, all the rulers of this world, religions, the governmental authorities. They are all absolutely corrupt. But for me, as a Christian following the Bible, I find hope in the scriptures that is not something that the individual person's ever going to be able to overcome in and of themselves. I mean, however you choose to live your life, Del, you're not going to overthrow the governments of this world. You're not going to overthrow the religions.
I don't want you. You're misrepresenting me again, because I've never professed I want to overthrow any government. Never once have I ever. I've actively said, look, that attitude is totally wrong for me. You know, I've overcame these things in a psychological sense where I rule me. I'm no subject to any external source or influence or oppression or anybody dictating over the top of me. So I really don't know what your issue is with that. You know, I really can't.
It's not an issue. I thought we agreed.
Oh, well, that's fine then. So, you know, you're here to say, you know, you misunderstood me, you misrepresented me, and you apologise for it, or?
No, I was in the chat and I was dropping comments pro Bible the whole time, but you were busy with your hangout. And then afterwards, there was some comments that I heard that the link had been dropped for the people that, you know, were in opposition to what you were saying. And then you were saying some stuff like, well, they're not showing up, they're not coming to defend themselves. And well, then I'm like, oh, well, I am going to come defend myself. So the words that I do throw out there, I'm willing to back up. I'm willing to go on camera. I'm willing to get into debate with people about. I'm really serious about them.
So based on the topic, you know, what's your stance here, and what is it that you're opposed to? What is it you disagree with? I mean,
well, I'm for the Bible as truth, and I'm against the Satanic verses as being not truth, and that's the reason why I was here today, is just sort of to defend the scriptures.
You articulate based on what I've offered, what it is you're disagreeing with, and articulate the points that you're disagreeing with, so that I understand.
The main point that I really sort of started out with is that the heart has to be receptive to the Bible in order to understand it. So you've talked about this being a spiritual realm. You understand that we're not just the body, right?
Well, that's my subjective incline is to go with that. But I couldn't claim it as an objective truth.
Okay, but I mean, from your heart, that's sort of where you're at, and I am too. And so, you know, flat Earth is what really straightened me out in the Bible. I went from being a strong Christian to falling for scientism. You know, the whole Big Bang cosmology. I thought I had discredited the Bible myself and had become a complete atheist. My life took turns for the worse as an atheist. It became really hedonistic, ended up divorced and all that. And I decided to really be reflective on my life. I wanted to make this life count. And I decided to really start looking for the truth. And at the time I had heard about enlightenment. So enlightenment was my pursuit for a long time. And as far as all the Eckhart Tolles and people like that, Alan Watts, I did reach the level of understanding that those people have, but I never was part of any organization. I never sold out to a Freemasonic or any sort of secret indoctrination. And then Flat Earth came along. And then Flat Earth really straightened me back out to the Bible. And so that's the message that I share on my channel. And because I think it's important, because I think that we're actually living in the days that the Bible's talking about, as far as those last days, the judgment period, the Great Tribulation.
Well, I've no got there. Obviously, I'm still only at Genesis, so it's going to take a while before I get through that.
Yeah.
But this is the point. It's irresponsible for anybody to just place faith and blind faith and belief in things that they don't fully understand. And the same's true as to disregard things that they don't really, understand and have an open look at. So that's pretty much what I'm offering. I'm offering an objective stance to pursue these literatures and see what they are, interpret them, take what I can for myself, and that's it. Now, surely that doesn't denote, evil doings or evil intent. Surely that denotes the total opposite.
I'm not here to judge you on that. I was here to defend the scriptures, and
but there's not. I'm not attacking them.
You're making a mockery of them as you're going through the scriptures. You're interjecting tons of things as a mockery that come from your skepticism, that come from your doubt.
Skepticism, as I say, I'm remaining objective, and I said at the beginning I'm going to try and suspend my wish to ridicule and stuff like that, because all I can offer is my natural reaction to the things that I'm reading and what I'm seeing. Now, if it's ambiguous and confusing, I have to express that, because then I'm being true. I'm not going to sit here professing to fully understand it, have a grasp on it. I've got questions. Now, if I have questions, I must have a right to have those questions, because as far as you're concerned, your God gave me that ability. So, yeah. So where's the issue?
Well, the question is do you want to take it up to a higher level and get off of the nitpicking and make the higher level choices, the ones that guide our eternal lives?
Like what? Like what?
Well, if one of the things that I've been doing on my channel is showing all the evidence that we're in some sort of simulation. Okay? And a lot of people like to mock the idea, but once they realize that the AE map and model doesn't work, the amount of possibilities left in the material reality that we've all been taught really become obsolete. There are no more options left. So if a person contemplates that they're in some sort of a simulation, that this has been going on for some 6,000 years, that the creator of this world is the God of the Bible, and it's the handbook or the script. So if you're familiar with movies, any sort of skit, there's a storyline. And so in a simulation where the things that you hold in mind tend to manifest, if the storyline's been given by the creator and everybody believes in it, that's gonna be the rendered outcome. So I'm trying to let people know that the timelines, all that research points us to that Great Tribulation time being right upon us. And if that stuff starts happening, that it's really important to dive into the scriptures, to accept the creator of the Bible for salvation. That's the message that's in the Bible.
To be honest with you, I'm far from accepting any creator, because I'm still trying to discern exactly what this Bible's talking about here. And I'm having to work my way through it and process it as time goes on. Now, even without the Bible, I'm still not on board with worshipping or accepting this creation or anybody who would have put it into motion, because I've got serious issues with it. Now, you can accept that or you can't accept it, but really, if you go by your teaching, it's not up to you to judge that. So you don't have any right to start chastising somebody like me who wants to suspend it, who wants to still pursue and find their own path and look at these things and discern for myself. That's surely up to me, So
it is. Yeah, everybody paddles their own canoe. Nobody makes choices for ourselves other than ourselves.
So you've heard me saying quite clearly, I used to almost be pushed to lean towards a materialistic philosophy because of the false teachings of the globe. So once I had that realization, I opened myself up and say, look, obviously I've got to accept that this is a creation of some kind. Whose creation, the reasons for its creation, I'm still not on board with, because there's still too much to find out about. So that's pretty much where I'm at, and that's where I'm remaining right now. I don't see how anybody can have an issue with that.
Well, the Bible it's the oldest, most well-recognized book in the world. And although people have tried to discredit it in many different ways, there's been just endless amount of attempts to do it. It still stands, and we're here to defend it in debate if somebody thinks that they can discredit the Bible. We do believe that it is the script that this world is being played out by. And
well, maybe you can answer the questions and the points that I was having confusion about from the off. There's so much missing. There's so much bits that open up to ask questions that are unanswerable. So who has these answers?
Well, here's another thing that we've been sharing on our channels is a thing called dispensationalism, which is talked about in the Bible, and it's foreshadowed all the way through. And what it refers to is, we know that at the Council of Nicaea, a number of books were removed from the canon, and the amount of canonical books was reduced to 66. So right away, we know that those were scriptures in the Bible, and there's other scriptures as well. And so what the scriptures tell us is that at this time period, those books would become available again. So one of the things that we've done is we've gone through the book of the Cave of Treasures, the book of Adam and Eve, the book of Enoch, the book of Thomas. And these books, the book of Adam and Eve fills in so many details about Genesis that just aren't in the canon. You get to know that, Cain was born with a twin sister and Abel was born with a twin sister.
What is it that I'm reading right now then?
Just out of the 66 canon. That's what it was reduced to at the Council of Nicaea.
Okay. So what you're saying is that there's other books that fill in these ambiguous, unanswered parts then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you, I think you would enjoy it. The Book of Adam and Eve is actually sort of a fun contemporary read in a way, and you get to know about Cain and his twin, Abel and his twin. All this inbreed talk and stuff like that. It wasn't like that. Cain was the original sinner, and he murdered his brother Abel because he didn't want to marry Abel's twin sister. He wanted to marry his own.
I thought Eve was the original sinner.
Oh, yeah, you got me. Yes, she was the original sinner. I didn't mean that. Cain was the original murderer. He is the first one that committed murder.
Can I ask a few questions?
Sure.
I am Gav, man, by the way. How you doing?
Nice to meet you.
Can you even entertain the idea that the book that you're reading could in fact be wrong? I mean, you're saying that there's books been missing or that would fill gaps, but you definitely have the right book? Or do you entertain doubts on that?
The doubts were there, and through research, lots of extended research, and it wasn't just my own, coming across other people. Person I would recommend his research is Robert Farrell of Apocryphal 1970. He's done a lot of these readings, but he's actually laid it down, the basis for how we can trust these scriptures extremely well. I like his arguments. I double-checked and verified them and agree with them.
So you had doubts, but you don't have them now, and this is a script of which we have no free will or determination over, that's being played out at the end times. Is that correct? Well, a fair summary?
In sort of a way, but not as literal as you might be taking it there. So the Bible tells us that in order to know the end, you need to know the beginning. And so we can use the flood of Noah as a great example of what we should expect to see before the next big, first time it was by deluge, the second time the Bible says it's going to be by fire, so a lack of water. But as far as, let's see, your question again, I got a little sidetracked trying to take it back to.
All right, there's no problem. I've just like to ask another one. You said sometimes in the middle that it was the flat earth that kind of changed you from an atheist into believing in God. Did I get that right?
Well, it was, I'd actually come back from atheism to agnosticism, and then as I got deeper into, it was New Age, it was Eastern religion, Buddhism, Taoism, all those. But the path that I specifically followed was non-dualistic reality, or Advaita. But so I had come back to a full belief in a creator at that point, but I was still very Eastern religion, New Agey when Flat Earth came out. And that's what straightened me back out. I did have my upbringing in the Bible. I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, so I did know the Bible really inside and out. They're big Bible readers.
Yeah, absolutely. And my last question, if I can be allowed, after hearing the reasonable discussions that have been going on tonight, and looking at different literature and trying to make sense of them honestly and openly and directly, are you going to apologize to Dale for the stupid things you said, or are you not bothered about that?
Though I think
like turn the other cheek and love everybody and all that.
Oh no, it's not like that. We aren't in the all lovey-dovey days. We're in the judgment days, and so the scriptures are clear that this truth needs to be shared throughout the inhabited earth for a witness to all nations before the end will come. That's what I'm engaged in. And so when these truths are being shared up against people that are against it, heads are going to butt. So that's spiritual warfare. It's not a physical fight, but it's a mental conflagration of minds, right?
Yeah, it's a psychological battle. Right? So just based on what you said, there's an assumption in there that bothers me. That I see a lot of people that this is the only area and this is where we're supposed to be. So for me, that's an assumption in the statement that you've just made. And how do you justify that assumption?
No, like you were saying, we all have personal choice. The information's out there. It's being made available. Now that we have the internet, this information can be shared worldwide real quickly. And so it really all boils down to a person's heart condition as to how they receive it. There's going to be those that reject it, and scriptures speak clearly about that. And then it talks about a small few that will accept it, and it gives their rewards and what the world's going to be like for them as well. So that's all we're out here proclaiming. Everybody makes their own choice.
So the end game then is what exactly? For us as human beings?
What the scriptures, what the Bible tells us, is that everyone that calls upon the one true name of our Savior, which a lot of people think is Jesus, but I keep telling people there was no letter J until 500 years ago. So about the same time the globe earth came around, so did the name Jesus. So Yahushua is the name that our research has come to. So everybody that calls upon Yahushua's name will be saved, regardless of what sins that they've done in the past. They will all be forgiven.
Saved from what?
Extermination. So just like in the days of Noah, when a deluge came, everybody.
So extermination meaning wiped out for eternity.
Yeah.
So what's the profit then? If the other option, if I'm not being wiped out for eternity and I'm being saved, what's for me after that?
Paradise life for eternity, in the way the world was designed to be back in the Garden of Eden.
But who decides, what a paradise life for me is?
The Creator. He created the Garden of Eden. So for the people that don't want to live in that type of construct, yeah, it's not going to be good for them, because it's not just wiped out as in like you don't exist anymore. The Creator has actually set up hells for people based on their level of wickedness, so that they'll be punished for eternity.
So this overseer has the book of objective good and evil and judgment and all this kind of stuff, but yet this is the same guy that created it all in the first place, or the same being that created it all in the first place.
Without free will, he would have never gotten a chance to see what our true heart condition is.
So, but would he already have known that? I mean, why would he even you know, give us the free will, but give us the opportunity to be evil and be good. And then at the same time, for me, as I've just been professing, like, you know, for me, I feel as if I'm more aligned with a rational, spiritual being, if you like, because what I would rather do would be to understand them and why they were the way they were and how they came to be that way, and whatever else, rather than just chastising people, putting people into pens and dictating who's to be accepted and who I accept and who I don't accept and who's to be killed and who's to be put into eternal gardens and but that just seems like, you know, I'm opening myself up to be subservient to some overseer, and that's the psychology I have a real issue with that.
Well, it's, if you look at the scriptures, what our rules and regulations for being able to live in this world are really, really open. So there's certain things that are condemned and they're laid down, but in general, the freedom of will, as long as the person doesn't have the intention of taking advantage of a friend or neighbor, not lying to them, not swindling them, not stealing from them. If a person
practice of deceit awake souls who has changed your login yet again, so it reads beyond.
I don't know how that happened.
Well, you wouldn't know how that happened, would you? Because you were just in a hangout with us under this title, and I asked you to change it. And,
I did,
and you courteously did. And now you've logged in to this hangout and have changed the name again, so it reads beyond. And that is deception, mate. That is deception.
I didn't change it.
Well, perhaps your God changed it for you then, mate, if that's the case, because that is what has happened, you know. So your credibility's sort of wearing a little bit thin here, my friend.
I just want to ask as well. Sorry, it's not Ronnie. You're Jason. So does this only apply to God's created human beings? How do the animals fit into this? They don't have a role. They're just automatons. They don't have sentience. They don't have any of that. Is that what you believe?
I mean, you're going off into speculative topics that I have.
It's no speculative because I've had experience with animals that display consciousness, that display sentience, that display affection, that display a lot of the attributes that we have in us. So the point, you know, you're talking about this deceit and murder and Cain and blah blah. Is the lion held accountable for overrunning a pack of cubs and murdering the cubs? Is that going to be held accountable for that type of behaviour? I mean, why did this God even create that type of horror show in the first place? I've got questions for him. I think this fucker needs to be held accountable. I'm judging him.
Well, we'll see how that works out for you. But
there'll be hell to pay.
We'll see how it works out, right?
As I've said before, you know, if it's no willing to have an equal and have these things resolved with me, it's not worth being part in the first place. So I'd rather just be wiped out for eternity, because I tell you what, I ain't getting on board until any of these questions are answered. I cannot, and it's irresponsible for me to put blind faith in these things that just don't make any rational, reasonable sense to me. So, yeah,
I'm totally with you. I don't see why we should believe in hypocrisy or in those things. I mean, you've said a few contradictions, man, like, you know, the ability and people should do what they want and it's okay as long as it's loving. But, you know, we can't even read a bit of literature online without you having to come and defend it, you know, your right to attack it, right?
And again,
there's things like that just don't make any sense from what you're arguing.
But again, you came in, Jason, and you're saying you're here to defend, you know, this biblical type thing, and you know I'm reading out the Satanic Bible, but you're not articulating where you see an issue with that literature. You're defending your literature when I wasn't really ridiculing it. It is ambiguous. It's hard to interpret. It leaves things open to question. So, you know, even if you could offer where you see an issue with the other literature and explain where your issue is with it.
I know you don't consider yourself a Satanist, but
you have to define Satanist, because there is different definitions. You must know that.
Yeah, anybody that's a liar, deceiver. And so since I do know that you're tightly aligned with the Eric Dubay and the whole popular group.
Jason, now you really are losing credibility, mate, because you're making associations and stuff and tightly aligned. I'm not aligned with anybody but myself, and everybody knows that. Okay, so you're another one of these people that puts this propaganda out here and builds associations. Eric's a man that stands on his own, and I stand on my own. There is no, network or association just because I've interacted with people. Now I've interacted with you, so now what? I'm aligned with you.
No, you've made it clear that you're not. There's no question about that. The thing is we are in a mental playing field right now. The battle is being fought in flat Earth. This is one of the highest level truths. It's the great deception of the Bible. And so this is the battlefield that Ronnie and I are going to always be in. And if you're here, you're going to be here, and you obviously are not aligned with us. So we are going to be at battle, at war, and we have been. But
you're the one that's declaring that when me and you have pursued that. So you, for me, have drew first blood. You are the one that's coming prodding. So you're wrong. You're the aggressor. You're the oppressor, and you think you've got the right to do so because you represent some book. I think you're full of delusions, right? Well, you're mentally unstable, son. All right.
I do stand on truths that nobody has been able to beat and debate. So if you feel that you have the ability to stand over us in the level of truth that we stand on, then you have to come to us, and you have to be able to show that what we're teaching isn't true. So Ronnie and I'm
not interested in competition with you, okay? You're trying to breed competition and divide, right? No me. I am here open and honestly and willing to talk and discuss. You're coming full of slants. You're coming full of nonsense. You can't answer things directly. You're insinuating. You're making misrepresentations. Yeah, you've done it, Jason. You have just displayed
I'm letting
it.
everybody know the connections, and I'm exposing it. That's the reason why I'm here.
What connections?
Exposing what?
Exactly.
The connections that you have to the popular flat Earth group. We can go through all
popular flat Earth group.
We're all here on our own, man. We're just guys having a conversation.
Nobody believes that.
Oh, is that right? Is that what you're trying to play now? That nobody believes what I say, but they believe what you say. Hey, what are you talking about?
Explain, Jason. Explain.
Yeah.
Ever since we've totally broken out the AE map and model as impossible, and now it is in the conscious collective of flat earthers, they can no longer trust that. Then they are going to look at all the people that promote it, the Mark Sargents, the Eric Dubays, the Jeranisms.
If you are aligned with them,
your credibility is gone.
Listen, see, before you and Ronnie even appeared on the fucking scene, because Ronnie appeared with Laurie Frary and Lawrence, right? See, before any of these appeared, I was sitting here saying, reject all maps and models because they're totally irrelevant. We as real human beings require exploration to find out the full dimensions. So don't come here bullshitting when the chronological sequence shows exactly what my whole message has been. You are blatantly barefaced lying right now, son. Lying through your fucking teeth. Yeah.
What am I lying about?
Yeah. The proof is saying that I'm associated and I'm aligned with this EE and this movement when I have done nothing but the very first video say reject them. Go and look and empower yourself and fill yourself with true knowledge and stop talking shite.
I will put up a video that shows all of the associations to you. How do you like that?
What associations?
I'll put up the video so that everybody can see all of them.
People that have came into the live hangouts, is that what you mean?
All the support where it's come from for your channel, I will show where that support came from, and that is the associations.
So
I will show who you supported.
I'm responsible for people supporting what I say, and I'm also responsible for people detracting from what I say. I notice you're not going to focus on that.
Yes.
How am I responsible for these other people? You're delusional. You are a mentally ill, deranged retard.
No, I'm not.
You're fucking mentally unstable. Listen to the bullshit that you're spewing. You're a fucking loony.
Yes.
Ad hominem attacks. This is what happens. This is what happens when the COINTELShills get to a point where they're beating the debate. The only thing they have left is ad hominem attacks.
Blah blah. You've
You
been.
ask to substantiate your absurd bullshit, and you can't substantiate it. You keep saying, "I'll show the associations." What associations? What is an association?
Well, when you watch the video, you'll understand. Apparently, it goes beyond your comprehension right now.
Shut the fuck up, man. You're dealing with real people here, son.
You're not going to away with that shit, pal.
You're fucking COINTEL. You're so bullshit. You've been playing these games for fucking months. You're an absolute plastic piece of shit, sonny boy. You've not got a clue. You can't deal with this level. They get to fuck.
Yes.
Away and make your hit piece videos. You delusional, retard, deranged muppet, you.
I look forward to seeing it. Aye. Quiet.
Right.
Happy bye, Jason. See you later, son.
Fucking ding-a-ling, mate.
Exactly. Transparent as fuck. People like him are the real agents amongst us people, by the way. See him there? The delusional fucking lying piece of shit.
Apparently there's people in the chat box that are more than willing to entertain your gibberish right now, dude. Wakely Sheeples put the offer out there if you want to go and have a debate with him. But it looks like you've outstayed your welcome, dude.
Yeah, they gotta go live on camera on my channel, and
well,
yes,
work it out with him, dude.
Take the debate.
Work it out with him. Run your own advert somewhere else now if you wouldn't mind pissing off.
Awake souls, everybody.
A shame you didn't have the balls to apologise.
Exactly. Just a fucking dishonest, disingenuous lying clown. Doesn't he represent fucking, integrity or anything spiritual? He's the total opposite of him.
What do you expect for a Bible thumper?
Exactly, man.
Aye.
He's not even that. He's just a fucking an agent of propaganda and fucking lies,
Nice to meet you, Dale.
Aye, how you doing, buddy? You alright?
Aye, no bad, mate, no bad. I'm in Clydebank, mate.
Aye.
Aye.
Nice one.
That come here, fucking have a wee laugh that way.
Very good. So, I take it you were listening, and you bring in some questions and some points in regards to the topic.
Just fucking. It was brought up by Catholic, mate. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, and no one anymore. But I mean, the fucking Bible, what a load of pish, mate. I mean, I think a load of drunk monks fucking wrote that.
Aye, they just.
I mean, it's like,
what was it?
We were talking earlier, mate. Sorry, what you saying?
No, I was just saying, what was the problems with it? I mean, what was your experience of these teachings and how it affected you? How you came to the decision to reject it? I mean,
when I was away, mate, when I was at school, I was like, fucking hell, what are these fuckers on?
Mm-hmm.
They're all fucking sadistic bastards with their belt and that,
Yeah.
Fucking taking pleasure of fucking beating the wains and that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, when you straight after were fucking alright, man.
Exactly.
My fucking parents were like, oh, you need to go to church. And I was like, oh, fuck that, I'm not going to church. Fuck off, I'm not doing it. I used to dog that and all, no. So I'm not going to fucking fuck that, you know what I mean? Fucking spastics and fucking standing up there with their dresses on. Talking a lot of shite, you know what I mean?
There's quite a lot that's hypocritical, and as I say, for me, you've got to look at these aspects that disempower people, that remove responsibility. And that's the fine line, and that's what guys that were just on can't respond to. They promote a subservient, weak state of mind. That you have to lend yourself to, faiths and beliefs, and although the reality's shown me a total contradiction, and again, saying to these people, look, if there is some God overseer, surely he's got to be a logical, rational, reasonable being that would only be interested in, self-empowered equals who, represent themselves, stand on their own 2 feet. I mean, is that no a balanced, thing to ask or request? I mean, anything else is subservience and under the authority of some fucking lunatic dictator, and that seems to be what the mentality is that they're trying to breed. Well, look at these teachings.
You know what I mean? That's it.
There's certain books you're not allowed to read, things you're not allowed to say.
Right?
It's fucking IOB, I mean, what a fucking shite, man.
Yeah.
I don't think for your fucking self. That's fucking shite. We're spouting.
Exactly.
Too many fuckers do it, man. They can't think for their fucking self.
He's even saying it, you know, when he's on, and it's like a twist, you know, saying this is a battle of, you know, spirituality or a battle of psychology. It's a battle of the mind. Well, exactly. So what I'm saying, he's trying to offer me subservience, you know, bowing to some overseer or some over authority, and my battle is, well, no, I don't think that's healthy for us. I don't think that's the way we should go, you know, because it doesn't serve you in any purpose whatsoever. You just become subservient to some authority.
Yeah, to a book. I mean, we've got 10 different books and millions of believers in all of them, and not one of them seem to have a doubt. You know, I want to stop and have a think, you know, like have a wee talk to yourself.
I'm not going to let people like that ruin it. I'm still going to, you know, pursue this process, and I'm going to read through it. You know, I'll still go through it later dates and go through it. I'm not going to let people like him, you know, fucking put me off it. I'm still going to try and remain objective and have a look at it and see what it's actually saying, you know. So if it was anything that was useful to us, people like him certainly don't represent it well, you know.
I agree. I hope people have seen this as a useful night. I'm going to clock off, my man. I enjoyed it. It was something different. I hope people, you know, listen to the content, you know, read the literature themselves, make up their own minds, because that's all we're asking. That's the only way for progress.
Yeah.
And hey, see you, man. See you, Del. See you, Damon. Is it? See you, man.
Damien, aye. Nice to meet you.
All right. Bye, Marshall. Thanks, everybody.
Take it easy.
Cheers, mate. Take it easy.
Cheers, guys. See you later, mate.
Aye, so. Aye, well, Damien, see, to be honest with you, mate, I'm flagging here. It's way past my bedtime, and I'm going to be up at fucking 5.
I'm fucking melting.
I'm going to be up about 5 in the morning with the wee Ian, so I can only apologise.
Sometime, mate.
Aye, you can come back anytime, buddy. You're welcome to join in.
Aye, have a good laugh, eh?
Thanks, man.
Aye, nice talking to you anyway, Dale. All right, man.
Cheers, Damien. I'll catch up with you a bit better next time, mate. All right.
Aye, no bother. Cheers, mate.
Buddy. Take
Right,
care.
Cheers.
So, I can only apologise to anybody else that was sitting there waiting. I'm not sure if there was, Marshall, was there?
Sorry about the delay, dude. I've got fucking text playing up at this end. Nobody that was successful. We had a few unsuccessful logins. So unfortunately, they're gonna have to try again the next time, because I'm assuming this will be a discussion that will be revisited.
Aye, of course. So I'm going to keep it up. Now, this is part 1. So part 2, I'll do later in the week, or maybe just make it a Monday thing or something. We'll see how it goes. So, aye, we'll be open. We'll be open for discussion. I'll always make it an earlier time now, so that we'll get plenty of time for the discussion afterwards. So, well, cheers, you know, everybody. Gav, everybody that came on, everybody in the chat, mods, much appreciated as always. I'm going to get off and get in my bed. I will see you very soon, people. Take it easy.